Good morning. I think I broke my GitHub repo. As in, can't push, can't.
I can't do anything.
Do you want to share your screen?
Oh, sure do.
Cool.
Let's see. Share. Okay. Might be helpful if I pull up the repo. That's what it looks like now. I was able to get the module 9 day 4 information. But when I went back to the GitHub repo, this is what pops up.
So this looks like, I don't know if this is a merge conflict that you have. Can you hit the commit to dependabot button down in the bottom left of the screen?
Right here?
Yeah, you can't click that.
Can't click that.
Maybe the issue might be you're on a weird branch.
Yeah.
Because I've never seen this before.
I don't know what's going on here. If you go into your terminal, do you use the integrated IDE and VS Code?
Yes.
Okay, if you go into VS Code and look at your terminal.
Okay. This is where I left off at yesterday.
Mm-hmm. So you're in module 9. If you, from this terminal, if you click in there and say git status.
Okay.
So for everybody else, git status just shows what the current state of the repo that you're in. So it's saying that you're not in a Git repository. What's PWD say? So just type out the letters PWD. And hit enter.
Okay.
So you're in your code module 9. Can you go to where the careers and code base is?
Do I have to get out of this? Because I have the careers base folder on my desktop.
Mm-hmm. So however you get to that careers
Okay.
and code folder.
Oops. And right there. And go to module 9.
Sure. Yeah.
Day 4.
Mhm.
Okay, and open. Whoops.
Sure.
Out the way. Okay.
Yeah, and then open up that password validator. Really, we're just trying to get a terminal in this folder.
Password validator, right
So the second one,
here.
yeah. So to show the terminal, it's shift and then the tilde key. Or control and the tilde key, is that what it is for VS Code? How do you show that terminal window?
Oh, I just go here and open an integrated terminal.
Perfect, okay. So from here, say get status.
Okay.
Let's see what your GitHub repo's doing.
Oh, that's different.
Can you make that window just a little bit bigger so we can see
Oh,
what's going
sure.
on?
Oops.
Okay. So you're on a branch called Dependabot, NPM, and Yarn. So we'll talk about this a little bit on Monday, but to get back to, so the branch that you're currently on is kind of like a different version of what is currently up on GitHub. So to get back to where you should be, say git checkout. So git in the terminal.
Okay. Yeah.
Space checkout.
Oh, okay.
And then space
Enter.
master.
Oh, smash. Okay.
Hit enter. Okay, so it's got some untracked changes. It's not going to let you. It's not going to let you switch over. So let's see. Do that git status one more time. I'll pay
Oh, sure.
attention to what it says. Okay. So it looks like we have some stuff in here. Is there anything that's in this repo that you care deeply about? Have you been saving any of your work here in this GitHub repo?
Just my capstone.
Oh, your capstone's in this folder? Or
Yeah.
in this repo? Can you show me where it's at? Is it that module 2 careers and code? Is that where you're storing your capstone?
Oh, no. Actually,
Okay.
no, the capstone is in a different repo. It's in a separate area.
Okay.
So I can get rid of, I guess, yeah, I can get rid of the module 2.
Yeah, I'm thinking actually that we might just blow away this whole repo and re-download the,
Okay,
if that works for you.
that'll work.
Okay, let's CD up then. So go up, CD up one level. So CD dot dot to go
Okay,
up one. Okay.
then enter.
Yep. Okay, now you're module 9. Okay, CD up one more level. Keep going. 2 dots.
Oops.
One more level. Keep going. So you're in cohort 2. We need to get to the very top of the folder. Okay, now you're in the top folder. Go up one more level. So CD up dot dot. All right. Now say RM-RF.
RM-RF.
Yep. And then a space between the M and the dash.
Oh. Space. Oops. Can I just delete that?
Yeah, that works.
RM space,
Space. Yep.
and then
Dash RF. RF is the flags, or the flags that you're passing RM.
okay.
No space between the dash and the RF.
Ooh, tricky. Okay.
Yeah, it's okay. And then space, and then start typing out the folder name to remove. So careers and code,
Oops.
and you can hit tab and it'll auto
Okay.
complete that for you. There you
Okay.
go. Now hit enter.
Enter.
Okay, so we blew away the folder. Let's go ahead and re-download it. Have you guys been
Okay.
using that client to download?
We've been using GitHub Desktop mostly to download the careers and code updates.
Okay.
Yeah.
folder there, yeah.
To do the initial clone, did you guys also use that?
I think we were using, what's the other one called? Git Kraken at that point that we've kind of.
Yeah, we were. We started off with Git Kraken and then switched over to GitHub Desktop.
Let me show you how to do it, how to do a download. So go ahead and open up your browser and go to that repo in GitHub.
Okay. Oops, let me get this out the way. So go to GitHub.
Yep.
Oops.
Yep, that's exactly where you want to go.
Okay.
And see the green button where it says code?
Yeah.
Click on that. And then copy that HTTPS. So where it lets you click that little, yep. Now go back to the terminal.
Oops.
And type out git clone. So 2 words, git and clone. Space and then paste. Hit enter.
And enter.
So when you clone something, you're going to get the latest copy of whatever that is that you're cloning.
Okay.
So we won't have to worry about trying to update. This is a bit brute force here. Like we got rid of it and then re-downloaded it. But sometimes,
Okay, cool.
sometimes if you don't know what's going on, it's the easiest thing to do is just go
Yeah, 'cause I didn't know
nuclear.
what that was that popped up.
Okay, so now you should be able to CD into that careers and code base. It's there. So if you want to open that up in VS Code.
Okay, so just CD and
Careers. So CD space careers.
okay, space careers.
Yep. And then, yep. So it's all there.
Ah, all set?
All set.
Ah, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay.
So that clone command in the terminal, if you already have like most of the careers and code based stuff downloaded and you just wanted to update with whatever the changes were, you could use that too? Or is it only when you-
No, clone actually grabs the repo and pulls it down to your hard drive. So it's if you already have a repo, keep using git pull, keep using git fetch, all of that stuff.
Okay.
I
Clone
guess I'm just curious about some of the ways you can do things in the terminal as opposed to using like GitHub and stuff like, or what is it called? GitHub Desktop and stuff like that.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that on Monday because we need to switch from using the UI to using the terminal a little bit more.
Yeah, I noticed you also open WebStorm by using your terminal. I was curious about how you do that. I don't have that. We've been using VS Code, but I'm wondering if there's a way to do that as well. And I don't know, just like would like to get more familiar with the terminal. So
Yeah, it's a little bit nice to use the terminal outside of your IDE, because when you're in your IDE and then using the terminal, it's a little bit tricky because yeah, if you have the terminal outside, you can go somewhere and then launch your terminal, and have Brian. It sounds like it looks like you're chomping at the bit to talk about this.
Oh, I am. I wanted to mention that in VS Code, if you hit Command Shift P, there's a command there you can run. I forget exactly what it is. I don't use VS Code on a daily basis, but it's like install command in terminal or something like that. And when you run it, then there's going to be a code command you can run. And you can pass code space then a path to whatever you want to open. It's effectively as if you open VS Code in like a directory. Or you can pass code space a path to a file and it'll open that file up. So that's how you would do the equivalent of Nathan's Storm thing with VS Code. But yeah, I'm just for context, I'm kind of known as a big terminal fan. I mean, you saw me in the module 5, I was pushing curl all over the place, but like, that's my thing.
Ryan's so cool. He doesn't even use an IDE. He does everything in the terminal.
Yeah.
Lives and breathes in the terminal.
Some people call that nuts, but I call it nice.
So I wanted to use the office hours today primarily to talk about homework, Jest tests, Cypress tests. Does anybody have anything that they want to cover? Is anybody so I think we've got 2 assignments right now on Google Classroom that are one for Jest, one for Cypress. Is anybody having any problems with those? Does anybody have any questions regarding those homeworks?
It's me again.
Mm.
How do you open a second terminal?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to
VS
ask
Code.
I'm gonna have to ask the class that. I'm not really sure. How do you open a second terminal in VS Code? Do you open another VS Code window? Is there a way to have a second Command Shift N? Okay.
I think the command that opens a whole new window though. You can do it. I think there's like a plus somewhere, but I'm not looking at VS Code right now. I should open it, but yeah,
Kyle, do you want to share your screen and show us?
sure. I'll go back to Zoom here. So there's a plus right here and it just opens another terminal, and then you can switch between them by clicking on them, and you can get rid of them with the garbage can. So there's a whole terminal thing up here where you can say new terminal, but that opens it at the top of whatever directory you're in, as opposed to like, clicking on something and doing open an integrated terminal here. That opens it at whatever folder level you're at. So, but yeah, this plus thing is, I think that opens it at the top as well, though. But that's how I was doing the other night when we had 2 things going at once. We had like, I'm trying to remember what we were running, a React app in one terminal, and then we were doing something else in the other one. I don't really remember now, but that's how I was doing it.
Yeah,
So
for Cypress, you're running.
Button.
Go ahead.
Cypress, that's what else we were running, right?
Okay.
And then these change to Node once you've got something
Okay.
running.
So after I hit the plus icon, I can just do a split terminal to see both terminals.
Oh, I don't know. I haven't ever tried that. I just usually click on 2 to change between them.
Okay.
What is that?
Oh,
Yeah,
this
what does that
does?
button do?
Oh, cool. You taught me something too. Thank you. That's awesome.
Ah, okay. Good.
That looked like a split thing, like a book. So,
Oh,
awesome.
cool. Thanks.
Yep.
Okay, that makes life easier. Thank you.
Anybody else? Other questions about the homework?
I'm just trying to get my capstone a little, like make improvements on my capstone so that I can figure out something to test with it. So I think the thing that I would want to do the Jest test on, I don't even have coded yet and probably won't for a little while, but I'll find something else to do it for the homework and then revisit it when I get to that point, I guess.
Yeah, so that's what I was thinking we'd spend the remaining time talking about is I haven't really seen anybody else's capstones. I think some people showed it last on Monday at the beginning of class on Monday, but if anybody needs some help finding something to test in their capstone, I'd love to take a look at your capstone and see if we could find something. So I know the
Susan.
Jest test is going to be a bit more difficult than Cypress. Go ahead, Susan.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to say, my capstone is not in React, but we did an assignment, we did a whole full stack project with Max, and I was gonna look at that and see if I could use the testing that way and see if there was something in there I could test. I was wondering if that was okay with you.
Totally. You don't have to use React in order to use Jest.
Oh, I
but,
guess I thought you did for the other one, right?
No, for Cypress and Jest, you don't have to be using React, but Create React app installs Jest for you. So you would need to install Jest into your project. So that will be a little bit of work. Let me just show you.
Well, I mean,
that
the one
looks
we did
like.
with Max, we did do it as a Create React app. My capstone, I didn't do that way.
Okay.
So I just
yeah,
thought I would use it,
Right.
as just a project that we've done that I can use for testing.
Oh, sure. Yeah, feel free to use that.
Because it's
Yep.
already set, I guess is my point.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, feel free.
I-
Feel free to use that. But for your capstone though, try using Cypress for that. Definitely use the other project for Jest, but try using Cypress on your capstone. I think you'll really like that.
How do
Okay.
you install Cypress outside of Create React app? Like, what's the process look like for that?
So it's the same thing as what we had in the slides. You're going to do that npm I - save dev. So could follow the instructions that are on the slides for installing Cypress, because Create React app doesn't come with Cypress. So either way, you're going to need to install Cypress. Susan, your capstone, do you have a package.json in the root of that folder?
Of my own personal, let me look. Oh, no.
So your capstone right now doesn't import any libraries. It's pure
No.
HTML and JavaScript.
Yeah, it's pretty basic right now, actually. So yeah, I don't even know if I have any JavaScript to test in it. It's simple.
Okay. For your capstone, when you want to run Cypress and test with it, when you do that npm install for Cypress, it's going to generate some files for you. Just be aware of that.
Okay. I'll try it. You know what I mean? I'll do what you're asking and see if I can get it all set up, at least, even if there's nothing to test, just to make sure it's ready for when I add more to it.
Cool. Yeah, and if that doesn't work out, just fall back to the other project. Yeah, that will work too.
You could always just have it click some links or something like that,
That's a good idea. Yeah, I'll try that.
something in there that you can have it do. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. I can find one of my pages or something. Okay.
Yeah. But talking about Jest and how you would use that with your capstone, does anybody want to offer up their capstone for me to take a look at and see if I could find something to test Jest with? Anybody looking at their capstone and going, okay, I can see how Cypress would be used here, but I have no idea how Jest would be used.
Latonia offered in chat.
Awesome. Okay, Latonia, is your capstone pushed up to GitHub by chance?
It should be. I've been committing. Yeah, it should be.
Oh, great. Okay. So let me. Can you send me a link? A link
Oh,
to
you know
your.
what though? I've been working on my online presence, and so I set it to private because I want to control what is public in that GitHub. So what would I need to do?
You can either flip it back to public, or you could add me as a contributor to your capstone. If you want to share your screen, I can show you how to do that.
Okay, hold on one second. Um,
Pull open your browser and go to your GitHub repo.
okay. Trying to move around this. Okay, so yeah, see how I have them set to
So click on your capstone, whichever repo that is.
this one.
Is it that one, or is it the other one,
Which
the
one?
one above it?
Oh, this is the pub. I think this is the deploy. This is where I go when I'm doing my code. Oh, you know what? Shoot. Okay, this is the deploy. This is. This may be it. This is what I see when I go to my folder.
Where's the JavaScript?
JavaScript. I don't know. See, I go in here when I'm working on everything's in here.
Okay. Yeah, so this is where we want to be. So where is that in GitHub?
I believe that's this one.
Okay. I don't think there's anything in here. There's a
Okay.
workspace file.
Max warned me one of these would become old.
Okay.
So this must be it then.
This one just has a folder for images and videos.
That's so weird. I don't know.
Okay, well let's just go to your VS Code then, and we'll
Okay.
do this all off of your screen.
You ready?
So go wherever your capstone is and open up VS Code.
Okay. You want just the front, right? The user face?
Mm-hmm. Okay. And you're in source. All right. So we're going to try to find a jest, something for jest to test in Latonia's app. So let's go and let's do a quick perusal of some of the code here in this capstone. So first question for you, Latonia, where do you think the most JavaScript you've written for this capstone is? Is it in app.js? Is it in index.js? Where do you think the most?
Well, I don't think it's going to be index. That should be pretty.
Yeah, okay.
I don't think it's that one. And then app.js, let's see. Well, maybe this was a bad idea. Are you seeing anything useful?
No, this is pretty straightforward. So what's in navbar? Okay. So these are all pretty straightforward. They're just rendering. They're just rendering HTML elements. So let's keep going. What is in main top video.js?
I don't think that's it.
Okay.
And all of the video files are going to be similar to that. So the only other thing that would be less, I think, would be the footer.
Okay.
Went the wrong way. And if I remember correctly, we even took that out. I had JavaScript for the pronunciation, but we ended up taking that out. So I may not even have any. No.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't even think I have any.
Yeah,
Mhm.
this is rendering a lot of HTML and
Yeah, I'm sorry. And my
it's
my previous version before I switched to React had some, but yeah, sorry about that, folks.
just trying to think if there might be anything else in there. Do you have any other code?
Let's see,
Body
body link.
links. Oh wait, here.
Oh,
What is the use state?
you
Is there
see.
anything that
Oh,
under body
from
links is?
body links. Yeah, this is
Ah, here we go. There we
okay.
go. We found something to test.
Okay, so what am I doing?
So yeah, here, let's see, what is under body links doing?
So it is, let's see if I can just pull up. Oh, well, let me, I want to see it, don't you? It is the links, I have a middle section that is, it just has links like when it's subscribe, unsubscribe, stuff like that. So it's not the nav bar, but it's another nav bar, if you will, that's in the middle of the page, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So,
So for everybody else that's following along, what we just did is we looked through the repo and we tried to find any code in there that's not just strictly rendering something to the front end, but is actually doing something with JavaScript. So in this case, there's something here that's doing something based off of a React state being set.
this looks horrible because I have to set my media query, so don't judge me, folks. But yeah, so it's in here. The JavaScript will be in here. Like I don't know if it's.
Oh, so you click on one of these and then it pops up here in the middle?
Yeah, it wouldn't be this because that's just the price, or that because it's just that. This may or may not, and I'm not sure, but so one of these, but they're not wired yet. Does that matter?
They're not wired.
Meaning
you
like
mean?
you can't actually subscribe yet. Does that make sense?
Oh, no, yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay.
So when you click on one of these buttons, then it fires this on click handler, and then you set some React state. Is that correct?
Oh yeah. So basically, we had to do a couple of things. We had to say, like if you click here, there needs to be an underline, right? And it needs to stay there until you're done. But when you leave, so that's why you see terminaries in there. When you leave, it should just go to whoever's next, like wherever else I click. So that's part of the JavaScript. But then the other part is like just for this coloring, because if you notice, it's gray here, and then it expands out to this purple, but it needs to stay purple. So like it's really kind of simple functionality, but that's what that's doing.
So here's a thought. Take the code that's in the on click. Take that code, everything that's in that callback for the on click. So where the parentheses start and the fat arrow and the open curly brace, everything there.
Here?
If you put that into a function.
You mean just this part here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then what am I doing? A new file?
You can do a new file. You can also do it at the top of this file. Whatever works for you.
Which is going to be safest? I don't want to break my code.
Yeah, so put it on line 2. Let's just put it in the top of this file for now.
Okay.
So let's create a function and let's shove all of this code in there. So create a function called handle body links, maybe.
What is it? Is it const handle? Yep, that's right. Body links. Is that right?
Yep. And then let's have it accept a parameter called body links. Yep. Perfect. And then So instead of doing, oh yeah, this works. If you want to do it as a variable, so it would be handle body links, and then a fat arrow here, and then an equals in between the handle body links and the.
Yeah, sorry about that. Okay.
Cool. All right, so body links is going to be passed in. So change the, oh, we need access to the function that's calling the React state. So let's return
Oh,
that for the component to set. So, okay, so instead of checking if under body links equals my story, let's change that to use the variable body links that's being passed in as the argument here.
okay, so what am I doing? So this,
Under body links equals that triple equals my story, change the under body links to be body links.
oh, and this.
No, sorry. On the line up above where it says if under body links, we're going to use the argument body links being passed in here. So change if under body links, change the under body links to body links, the argument coming in.
So this part here.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, sorry. Okay.
So we're going to pass the under body links into this function. And then instead of set under body links on those, yep, on line 5 and on line 7, just return
Return the whole thing.
Return empty string in this case. So type out return and then space,
Mhm.
and then drop those parentheses. So we're going to return the literal string. Okay. And then drop those parentheses.
Oh,
And same thing for line 7. Yep. All right. So what this function is doing is it's taking in an argument called body links, and then you're checking to see if it's equal to my story. If it is, then you return the empty string. Otherwise, you return a string that contains my story. Does that make sense?
yeah.
Okay, so now let's go back to where you were calling this this code. Let's go down. Yep. So we're on, yep, right here. So instead of having the code here, go ahead and drop out all of this code here and call your function. So on line 60.
60 here.
Yep, at the very, yep. So go to the end of this and hit enter to create a new line.
So go here. Or was it up one in here?
Up at the very top of this odd click callback. So go to the end of line 60 and hit enter.
Oh, you said that, didn't you?
There
Okay.
we go. Now call your function,
Oh,
handle body links. Yep.
Okay.
What are you going to pass in as the first argument?
You said body links?
So we're going to pass in the under body links to the function.
Under body.
Call it with parentheses. Yep. And then pass it the under body links.
It's under body links and not body links? I thought we put a body link up top.
So that's the name of the variable inside of the function.
Oh, okay.
But for this, you're passing in under body links, which is what you had written before. And then this returns either an empty string if under body links is my story, or it returns the string my story. So go ahead and capture that. So take whatever handle body links returns and put it into a variable.
What? I'm so confused right now.
So at the beginning of line 61, store the result of handle body links into a variable. So say const links maybe equals. So yep, now you're going to capture the the response from that function, what that function is returning.
Okay.
And then on the next line, set under body links. So that, yep. And throw the result of that function, throw links into set under body links. Parentheses. Yep, exactly. And now you can chop out lines 63 through 67 because that's in your function down below. Yep. There you go. So now you have moved all of that code on line 63 through 67. You've moved that into the handle body links function.
Oh. Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay. Yep. So now what is it doing? What's happening?
So you've moved that logic into this handle body links function. So now you have a function to test with jest.
Oh, okay.
Just like our examples, we always had a function and then we imported that into jest and
Oh,
wrote the
that's
test.
right.
for it.
Okay. So we basically set it up so that we can test. So now it would
Yep.
be a new file. that
Yep,
is-
and then you would do the whole jest testing. But before we jump into that, do you want to hop into your capstone and make sure that that button still works? There it is.
Yep.
One other thing I just want to quickly mention, it looks like you copied that code in multiple places. There's multiple places you could update it to use that function. I don't know, Nathan, if you were driving towards that, but
Yeah, there's multiple. So you're calling basically the same code in multiple places. So if you scroll down a little bit.
In here?
Yeah, so see on line 26, you have basically the same code except it's changed a little slightly. So you're using the word subscribe there. And same on down on line 44, you're using the same code except it's changed slightly with the word connect. So
Yeah,
this
we
would be
did that only because me being a newbie, it made like it was easier for me to read to understand the difference between everything. And I was saying like if I had a chance later, I could go back and tighten up the code. But we were intentionally verbose at the beginning.
Yeah, that's totally fine. Ryan was just pointing out that this same function could be used for the other ones.
Okay.
But at this point, you're right. This is where you would break out the test file, then you would import your function into the test, and then you would start testing. But before you do that, what kind of things do you think you can test this function?
Well, click would be an easy one, right? Go. Does the click work? Or no, that I'm thinking Cypress Center.
Right. So go up to the function. Let's look at it really quick. What does this function do?
It's checking to see if my story is actually returning my story. So we can check to see.
Yep, there you go.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, I'm going to leave that to you to test. Does anybody else have a capstone that we want to run through this and try to find a jest test for so that we can test functionality on? Shaw, Brielle, Dominique, anybody else?
Because I'm actually going through it right now, and
Nice.
I really don't know what to test for. So yeah, I'll show on my screen.
Cool, let's do it. So this is your capstone? Okay, so go ahead and open up the source folder and let's take a look. Where do you think the most JavaScript you have in your capstone is at? So that's the public. If you open up SRC. Okay, so you've got an app.js and you've got index.js. So let's take a look at app.js really quick and see. Okay, and then let's take a look at index.js. Okay. Okay, so there's so you don't have any very much JavaScript in here. Let's see. I think you're muted. Or I can't hear you.
Sorry, hold on.
Oh, you're good.
Okay.
So let's go into your capstone. Can you pull it up in Chrome?
Sure.
Oh, you already have it deployed. That's cool.
So
Okay.
it works, but yeah, I'm thinking about changing my layout for my second pages. But on my home page, my button pop up. I was thinking about, I don't know. I really don't know what this has for.
Right. Well, the problem is that there's it's not so much a problem as it is just how your capstone is set up. The problem is that there's nothing to test. There's no you're not using React state. So is there any functionality you have planned for your capstone that involves some more JavaScript?
I was gonna do a subscription because on my other website, I already have the e-commerce, so I really don't need one on this one when I already have one on my other website. I was gonna do a footer. I was thinking about doing something with like a random card pick, like maybe like do like a flower of the day or a saying of the day, like a positive affirmation of the day. I was thinking about doing something like that. But
that would be perfect to test. If you're doing something random where you're gonna maybe change here on this page, maybe you were gonna do something where you changed what cards show up when the user loads to something random.
yeah,
that would give you some JavaScript code to test. If you don't have any JavaScript code, then you're absolutely right. There is nothing to test. So we would need to build something with JavaScript in order to have something to just test.
Okay.
But this is office hours, so we're going to go the extra mile here. So go ahead and open up VS Code. And I want to show you when you create React app, you get a test for free. So go into app-test.js. Just want to show this really quick because we didn't cover this in class. So Jest comes with, Ryan, is this actually Enzyme under the hood?
I don't think so. I think it's like a crappy Facebook enzyme.
The poor man's version of
Yeah.
Enzyme. So see on line 5 where it says render. So this is actually, so we showed Cypress on Thursday, and Cypress is actually going into your app and rendering the whole thing. And then your robot's going and clicking on stuff in here. So here in this test that Create React app makes for you, you can actually render your components without actually having a browser open. So on line 5, what it's doing is it's actually rendering the app component. It's not going to pop up a browser and show you, but it's actually running in a mode called headless, where you don't actually have a window for app, but it's truly rendering the app component. And then on line 6, screen.getByText, it's looking at what got rendered, and it's asserting that the words learn React are rendered into that app. If you wanted, you could change line 6 to be looking for text in your app. So if you go to your app.js, you render some text in there, right? Hello,
yeah.
everyone, site coming soon.
Yeah.
So you could change that test in app.test.js to assert that it has the words, hello, everyone, site coming soon. Yep.
Do I want to keep the
Yes,
backslash?
keep
in the
the-
I? Okay.
Keep the dash, the /I. Yep.
And the periods
Okay.
won't mess with it.
Get rid of the period because I think that might throw things off. In fact, get rid of the redoing my page with React. Let's just test for hello everyone site coming soon. There we go. Okay. And then this is a jest test. So how do you run your jest test?
I forgot. I have to go through the videos again.
That's fine. In your terminal where you're serving, hit Control C and stop serving your. Okay, and then run npm test. That's what starts up the jest test runner. There you go.
All right.
So this is the built-in test that comes with Create React App, and what it's doing is it's rendering behind the scenes. You're not going to see a browser, but it's rendering the app component, and then you're making an assertion about it. We didn't really cover this in class because Cypress does so much better of a job of doing this than the built-in stuff that Jest comes with. But this is handy in a pinch if you really need to prove that some text is being rendered on your app.
Yeah, that's gonna come in handy because pretty much my website is gonna be nothing but just informational and text. So that's
Cool.
Yeah, I can test for that then. Thank you.
Ryan, do you want to say anything about these built-in render tests?
Sure, I'll say something real quick. So part of the reason why these, I don't want to say are like not the recommended thing to use, because like definitely people use this, but why at least I prefer to use Cypress is because these things are pretty hard to debug when problems happen. So you saw with Cypress how they're like on the sidebar there, you can like hover over things, you can like inspect it, you can see every single step it does. With this, you really don't have insight into what the browser is seeing and what the robot behind the scenes is doing. So what ends up happening is when something goes wrong, you get very weird error messages, and it takes a really long time to debug them, and you end up spending a lot of time just fixing your tests. And when you spend a lot of time just like churning and fixing through like little issues in your tests, like they start to become less valuable because you're spending all your time fixing your tests, not actually running your tests. And like because you're fixing them, you're like touching them a lot, so you're not really sure if they're still like working the same. So there's a lot of sort of, this is a little bit less of a nice way to execute this sort of test. But it still, as Nathan said, it still works. And I'll say that I have written some relatively complicated tests in an environment like this, and it is doable. But Cypress is just worlds better.
And how would I go about excuse me, I just lost my train of thought. Downloading Cypress again?
So if you want to download Cypress, hit Control C in that terminal. Or Q is, you can type Q to exit. Okay, to install Cypress, you need to download the package. So you would say npm I -- save -dev
You said dash
-dev
yep. DEB.
dev V for development. V, the letter V, as in
Oh, V.
vendetta.
I'm sorry. V.
No, you're good. You're good. Space and then say Cypress. So that's the name of the package to go to the internet and grab and pull into your. Yep. Hit enter. And then this is going to take a while because it's downloading a special version of. Wow, it didn't take any time at all. Cool. It's only on startup when it downloads. So to run Cypress, everybody to save folks time so you don't have to go and look at the slides. It's to run Cypress, you would say // node modules, that folder, node underscore modules. Yep. And then the path is /bin for binary / Cypress. Okay. And then space, open. Yep, that's it. So this is going to install Cypress for the into your app and give you, yep.
Okay.
So you got all your integration tests. You again, feel free to just delete these. They're in the Cypress integration folder.
Oh yeah, that's right from last
Yep.
class. Remember
Yep,
this?
and this is where you would create your app spec and spin up your robot and all of that.
Or delete it. Why won't you go away now?
So you would have to go into VS Code or
Yeah.
somewhere and yeah, rip them out that way. Does anybody else want to share their screen and talk about setting up Jest tests? Anybody else going, I have no idea.
I think I would do something on my map stuff that, that was, at this point, it's just showing markers. It has like basic directions between two locations, but I think that's
Let's
probably
do it.
the best thing to test.
Dude, let's do it.
Oh, you want me to share my screen?
Yeah, let's do it. So I just have a question for you guys. If we could rewind time, go back to Monday, what
Yeah.
would you guys have thought about starting with Cypress instead of starting with Jest?
I think it would have been better.
You think so?
I think so, because Cypress, it does make sense. It's just doing the repetitions of getting it down. But if it's better than what I was doing before, then I don't see why not.
Yeah, for your capstone specifically, Cypress is going to be awesome. I think, yeah, if we could rewind time, I think I would have started with Cypress just because it's so much easier to. It has so much more value for Shaw. Yeah, yeah. Oh, Shaw. Before we jump into Kyle's stuff, how is your capstone? Are you able to find stuff to test?
I can share my screen. I don't think I have much, but I installed Cypress. I tested that, but for just I don't think I have much, but I can share after Kyle if you want.
Okay, yeah,
Share
let's
my
do that.
screen. Okay, thanks.
So Kyle, you've got function and init map. Ooh, you got some JavaScript here. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's not actually working right now because I was doing something to hide my API key and that's not working. So I actually don't have the API key in there right now. But I don't know.
So
You
this,
want me to scroll down or? Is this
this is office hours, so you guys get the full spiel here. But what we've talked about this week are unit tests, and unit tests are meant to test one piece of functionality, one piece of code, one thing.
Mhm.
Here in a init map, it's doing a lot of stuff. So it's spinning
Right.
up
To
a
narrow
direction
down.
service, a directions renderer. So immediately this would be a pretty difficult function to test without something like mocking. And then you're not really doing a unit test anymore. You're doing more of a integration test. It's testing different pieces of code. So let's try to find a unit test in your code, something that is doing just one thing. Like for example, the directions button. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I was just going to scroll down, but
What about that calculate and display route function? That looks suspiciously maybe good.
Yeah, yeah.
oh,
What is
further
the
down?
calculate?
Yeah.
Ooh, we got a promise in here. See on line 54, that looks, it has a dot then and a dot catch. It looks like that's
I haven't
returning
looked at this
promise.
code in a little while, but yeah.
Okay, let's keep going. This looks a little tough. Is there anything? Okay.
Those are kind of the same, just repeats of those are pop-ups.
Okay.
And that's just notes on stuff I was going to change. So
You got more JavaScript working in this capstone?
No, not yet. Well, I mean, I have some basic stuff on the other page that I'm just working on bringing into React. That's just to click on different what do you call them, thumbnails, and make it display a different image in the
Okay.
main window or whatever. I haven't even gotten that into React yet, so I'm just working on basic setup with React right now.
Sorry, my Mac is about to die. It just flipping stuff over.
The thing I feel like would be best to test, but I haven't gotten to that point yet, is like, so I don't know if you saw the presentations about who's doing what for capstones, but I'm doing a walking tour of the history of downtown Syracuse. So
Mhm.
I wanted to get it to do like, it's an audio tour. So I wanted to get it to auto play, like when you get to the certain location, to just start playing the narration automatically. So I'm thinking that's what I want to test probably with Jess when I get to that point. But right now I'm just displaying the basic, a few of the locations.
So this could be a. Sorry, I'm trying to get all my Mac is dying and my USB-C hub is just not. It's not working. Okay. This might be a good one to use that app.test.js to assert that some text is being rendered when you display your app component, but we can make a function out of this. So if you scroll up, let's go back up to where, keep going. So, okay, here. So that direction service.route, when you call the calculate and display route, see how it says temporarily fixed at common space? So you're taking a
Yeah, I just
GPS
wanted to have a
coordinate.
UART here thing, and I just, yeah.
Mhm. So when this function is called, you could have it calculate where the user is actually located.
Oh, okay.
Right
Yeah,
now
well,
it's-
that was the eventual plan. Yeah, but
Yep.
I'm as an OVS, so I didn't want to start there.
Yeah. So that function where it goes and finds where the person is at using, I don't know what API you're going to use to
Yeah, I
find a
haven't set that
GPS
up yet.
coordinate. Yeah. That to me seems like a pretty good thing to do a Jest test on, because you're going to take in some module to call to find GPS coordinates.
Mhm.
Then you're going to need to mock that module. Brian, I'm running out of ideas here. I thought lots of JavaScript. This is good. We're going to have something we can easily test, but your JavaScript, this is why mocking is so important, because
Well, the mocking was interesting, but I definitely have to go back and watch the video several times and kind of follow along bit by bit. I don't know. Yeah.
because see, this is exactly what like Ryan and I deal with at work, where you don't necessarily have a function that's doing something very simple. You have lots of this. You have lots of modules and libraries where you're calling that. And so to write tests, you need to be able to control what those modules are doing and make assertions about what they're returning. So this is a very realistic scenario.
Nathan, what do you think about trying to mock out direction service, like trying to walk through that? Basically like mock out route, have it return a promise. Do you think that's too advanced, or?
We could do it.
It would be, I guess the point I would make here is like, it's realistic of something you'd actually do, and it might be a good example for folks to see.
We are 7 minutes over the hour. So does anybody want to see some mocking? Stick around for that. Oh, Shaw, we also need to take a look at your capstone. How about we do this? Let's take a look at Shaw's work, see if maybe he's got something that can be straightforward unit tested, and then we'll jump into mocking. So Shaw, if you want to share your screen.
Yes, sure. So before I do that, I was installing Cypress. So was installed, I saw the folder and other stuff. I tried opening a different terminal or window. It didn't work. It gave me an error. So in the same terminal, I tried npx start and it worked.
So where did you run the npm install for Cypress?
In my capstone folder.
In your capstone folder. Okay.
Yeah, I run it. It's a different window.
So from where you installed it, can you
Uh-huh.
run Cypress?
Here. It's in a different folder. It's this one.
Okay. So that's the back end.
Yeah, that was how that's the backend. Yeah, I had to open it in a new folder then.
Ah, right. And that's another thing. We might be better served talking about testing the back end.
Yeah, I was gonna mention, but I didn't get a chance earlier. If for the next cohort, it might be good to do it in a way where Cypress has taught us like front end testing and Jest has taught us back end testing, even though it's not really true. That might, because I feel like the back end testing is kind of almost more valuable sometimes.
I agree. The back end is certainly a lot easier to write tests for.
And like you have database operations, it's pretty straightforward to,
Yep.
to do all that. So,
And it's very powerful once you've mocked, or once you know how to mock the database, then you can set yourself up with all kinds of scenarios like, you know, your database has all of this data inserted into it, what
yeah,
what
And-
your endpoints do.
nicely ties into the whole like fat models discussion and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cool.
So here I am, PWED inside
Okay.
my capstone.
So you're in your capstone. Do an ls where you're at in the terminal. Let's see the layout here. So you've got index.html. Is that your front end?
Let me clear this kind of confusing. PWD. That's very slow. Oh, I type out. It's capstone. Why ls? What? No, I have more than this. No. It's my capstone backend. Yes.
Oh, okay. So from CIC, that's where. So if you CD up 2 levels, so in the terminal CD, oh, that works too. Yep. Yep.
Yep.
Okay. So this is where Cypress is installed. Okay. And okay, so backend is there. You've got a main.js. Is that where some of your React code is at?
No, that's JavaScript.
It's just pure JavaScript.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I have a server backend. If I go to lost.
Have you written any React for your capstone?
No.
Okay. Okay. So this is okay. So let's go ahead and just get Cypress stood up from where you're at in the terminal. I can see that there's a Cypress folder.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it created all of that correctly. The thing that is
I
odd
created
is that
this. Mm-hmm.
the thing that's odd is that we don't have a node modules. So when you run npm install, it should create a node modules. Did you happen to delete that?
No. Node modules.
Yeah, when you npm install, it usually creates it. Oh, this is maybe it's using that parent directory up above you as the node modules folder. Yeah, because we've been running into that pre-flight business From here in the terminal,
Uh-huh.
run npm install Cypress again. So npm I --save -dev.
Oh, it's very slow. It doesn't allow. Wait, I have to wait. It's oh wow.
Save -dev.
The space after save or no?
All one word. Save -dev. Yep. And then Cypress. Yep. Hit enter. I bet you this is gonna. Yep. So if you do an ls, yeah, there's no node modules. Gosh, how did that node modules get set up above you? So cd up one level and do an ls. So cd ... Yep, ls. Is this where your node modules is at? No. Okay, cd up one more level. Let's try to find it. Yep.
Shaw, if you run npm space bin and hit enter, what does it say?
Where?
Just where you are right now.
Desktop?
Sure, let's start here.
npm?
Space bin and hit enter.
Okay. So it's in the home folder node modules. Ryan, should we just blow that away and see if that
I think
helps?
that's probably a good idea, but before you do that, if you can go back into your capstone directory and run that one more time, just to make sure that that is indeed the one it's using.
Yeah. And then run npm bin again.
Yep. Okay.
So from here, say rm-rf, and then carefully paste in that node modules path up above. So /users /Shaw Mansour's.
Where /?
So you can copy up above that npm bin what it spit out. So see when you ran npm bin, it pasted out users
This one?
Shaw. Second from the last line on in your terminal.
Oh, this one?
Yeah. So grab all of that.
All of this?
Paste it. Yep. And then chop off the paste it. And then chop off the .bin part because we want to get rid of
The
the
last
whole
part?
folder. Yep. Enter. Yep. All right. From here, this is inside of Capstone, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
From here, run the npm install so that npm I.
Before you do
Yep.
that, well, okay. Run npm bin again. I have a feeling it recreated it in the same place because the package JSON in that directory too. Yep. So, Shaw, rerun that rmrf command you just ran. So if you hit the up arrow, you can get back to it. Yep,
Mhm.
and then hit enter. And then hit the up arrow one more time. And then hit backspace until you get to the slash. And then type P and hit tab.
P tab.
Hit tab one more time. And then, okay, now hit the star key, so shift 8, asterisk.
Mhm.
Yep, and hit enter. Okay, now try the npm install again. I think this will work.
Cool. Created a package lock. Okay. So for everybody else that's running pure JavaScript capstones, do what we're about to do. So run npm init, npm space init. Yep. Hit enter. So this is going to create a package.json in your capstone, which can then be used to install Cypress and Jest if you want. And Shaw, you can enter in these details. What I usually do is just hit enter. So just keep hitting enter on your. Go ahead.
Fun fact: if you give it --yes, it'll just auto accept them all.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah, you -y.
Yep.
Yes.
Well, now run your npm install for Cypress. So npm I -- save dev Cypress. Well, now you're gonna get a copy of Cypress, and also your all of your npm stuff should start working in Capstone. So from here, now you can do /node modules. /node modules /bin Cypress open. Yeah.
So just to say that one more time, so it's like one sound bite for people. If you have a project where you're not using React in your capstone and you want to use Cypress, the way you need to do that is you need to run you need to cd into the directory that your non-React capstone is in, run npm init, hit enter on all the prompts it gives you, or type whatever you want there, and that's going to create the package.json. And then after you've done that, then you can run npm install save dev Cypress, and then you can follow the React instructions from that point forward.
Oh, very cool, Shaw.
So how was I able then yesterday to create this and run? Because earlier I created this first test and ran it and it worked. It's kind of weird.
That's so cool that you hadn't run Cypress. You wrote the test and then you started it, and it just automatically. That's really impressive. I never get that lucky when I'm writing tests. Usually, when I open it up for the first time, it's failing because I missed a line or wrote something. That's very impressive. Cool.
All right. So yeah.
So
just,
yeah. You don't have Jest installed because this isn't a Create React app. I would just do testing in Cypress.
Okay.
And just stick with that. Don't worry about writing any Jest tests.
Okay. Quick question. I know we are 20 minutes over. So how do you test fetch? Do you have to do mocking?
If you wanted to write a Jest test for this, yeah, you would want to do some mocking.
Oh no, no, not for now. No, I just testing this API data. It's working, but again.
Cool.
Oh, I thank you so much. Thanks
you're welcome.
Thanks.
Congratulations, you get a gold sticker for writing a test, and it runs on the first pass. Anybody else have anything? I actually need to go run and help out Mama.
For the homework, you still want the Jest testing and the Cypress testing though, right?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. But if, again, the homework is really just for me to assess where you guys are at. For the folks that are here and, shared their capstone with me, and I can see, where you're at and all of that. The homework is purely for me to be able to check in and see that you guys are getting some of these concepts. I know you guys are getting these concepts. So like for Jest test specifically, if you're running into problems there, just let me know. And yep.
I'll throw out there, Nate, if you've got to get going, I'd be more than willing to go through the mocking stuff for everyone who wants to stick on. I will throw out there that I don't have a ton of mocking experience with Jest in particular, but quickly looking at the documentation, it looks pretty similar to what I'm used to. So,
Ryan, just so you know, this was a new one for me. The mock jest.mock works for modules. Jest.spyon works for functions that you've written. And you have to go and look at the tutorials for jest.spyon because it has to be structured in a really specific.
So this is going to make sense to no one else in the call, but is jest.spyon a lot like mock.patch?
It is. Let me send you this, Ryan, because
Okay.
you have to set it up in a very specific way if it's your.
For Kyle's example, I think I can just inject a.
Yep.
So I don't think it's going to matter, but.
Yeah. For Kyle's example, it actually might make more sense to break that into another function and then mock that function, because you might run into some weird stuff trying to mock the module directly, is my guess. I don't know. But I'll send you this.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get mine working again with the actual API key loaded in, and it's not. So I'm a little frustrated right now.
So
Do
Ryan,
you need that to be working to test it? I would assume. Working in the browser.
That's usually good. Now, what the nice thing about mocking is you're going to be simulating some of those interfaces. So if it's something like it's not working because the API key isn't valid, well, the thing you're going to simulate it with it doesn't really care if the API key is valid. So that might be fine.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. It was not working with the whole thing that Max tried to help me set up. Like, I think because the import for some reason wasn't working, like trying to import the API key from another file that was, what do you call it? Get ignored. But now I've got the actual API key in there again. I don't know. I probably just have to take something out that was like, I thought I commented everything out that we had in there for all the other stuff it was doing to hide the API key, but I swear it was working when I demoed it. I have it on video to prove it.
Oh, we'll take a look at it.
Okay.
Ryan, I just wanted to call out on line 1, you have to do the wildcard import to bring in the whole module if you're doing the spyon.
Oh, yeah.
So it needs to be outside of the function that is calling it. And then line 15, the spy.mock restore, if you forget that, it's going to have it mock implemented for the rest of the functions. It's gross.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. So typically that's something you put in like a before each or after or whatever. Okay.
Yeah. So with that, I'm going to leave you in Ryan's capable hands. I'm going to go help do fatherly duties. Cool. I'll see you guys. Bye.
Bye. Okay.
Okay,
So
I got it working. I had commented too much out, and I'd accidentally commented the script that was that was bringing in the JavaScript file. So
yeah, to be clear, if anyone doesn't want to talk about mocking or doesn't want to stick on, you're welcome to head out. Like I'm just gonna talk about that for the rest of this, and then when I'm done, we're done. I think so. Or I guess if anyone has any questions, but
can you briefly like just go over what it is again? Like I feel like I misunderstood in the beginning, and now I'm still fuzzy on it.
Yeah. So let's see. So far, all the tests I guess Nathan did a little stint with you, but in general, like all the tests you've been doing with Jest, what you do is you call a function with some parameters, you get a return value from that function, and you check to see if that return value matches what you'd like. And for really simple functions, that's good enough. So a good example is like, let's say you had a function that took 2 numbers and added them together. That's something that's pretty easy to write. And you wanted to write some tests for that. Okay, pretty simple, works just like Nathan said, that's great. But things start to get more complicated in the real world. And a great example of where things can get complicated is asynchronous operations. So going back to module 5, yay. In that module, we talked about Axios, or I think after that, Max talked about fetch too. But either way, those are asynchronous operations. Those are operations where you perform an action and the return value you get from that is a promise. It's not really like a value you can use right off the bat. Like it's a thing that'll eventually become the response that comes back from the server. So it's not like, let's say you have a function that's got a fetch call in it or an Axios call in it. What that function is going to return is a promise. And you can't really like check that value in your test because the test assertions are running right after the fetch or Axios has started, but before it's completed making that request. So in other words, the order in which it's going to run is fetch or Axios like starts the request. Your assertions are going to run, and then the response is going to come back from the server. So really what you want to do is you want to run those assertions at the end, like after those responses come back from the server or whatever code's going on there. Like you want the ability to sort of convert that asynchronous function into being like a synchronous function. So one way you can do that, well, so I guess that's thing one. Thing two is often when you're testing, you want your test to be independent. And explaining why that is. Well, let's say you've got a test where you're making a request to a server and you're getting back data from the server. So when you're testing, you often want to test edge cases or interesting possibilities. And maybe you want to test like, well, what if the server returns back like an error code? Or what if the server returns back maybe data that's unusual in some reason? Or maybe the server just returns back nothing. Like all these sort of weird cases are not really things the server is going to do normally. So if you were to like, forgetting about the whole like asynchronous part, if you were to just run your test with that function being sorry, not that function, the fetch call or the Axios call being in there, it's going to return back the successful response, hopefully every time. And I mean, if the server goes down, like now you're going to get the error responses, it's going to become really hard to test that because it's got a dependency on an external service. So that latter part is really the kind of initial reason why mocking is so important. Because if you have a function that depends on something else, you want to be able to ensure that something else is going to work in a very reliable, predictable way so that your function can return data or like produce data that is reliable, that's based on the data in that external service. So those are kind of the two reasons why mocking is important: being able to handle sort of asynchronous things correctly, and also to test out cases that maybe the external service wouldn't produce. Also, kind of as a side effect, if you mock out a lot of these things, these calls to servers could be slow. And if you mock it out and just say, the response that the server returns back is always going to be this thing, that's going to be really fast because it's not actually making a call to the server. It's just immediately returning that fake data. So it's also going to make your tests a little faster, hopefully, too. Does that kind of make sense?
Yes, I think so. It does. You're kind of, you need to do the thing you want to test after, but you're not really waiting for the data to come in, kind of.
Yeah, that's what you described.
That's why it's fake. That's kind of why it's fake, because you're just assuming that's going to happen, or
assuming it's going to happen. So
I think I understand. I'm not explaining it right.
Okay. The second reason, which you didn't say, but I just want to make sure you understand too, is if you want to test like the server returning weird data, there's not really a way you can affect the server like from your end to say like, please return a 500 or please return a 404 or please return an empty body or something. So like mocking allows you to sort of simulate what your code would do in those situations too. So just more sort of edge cases, like with the examples we talked about with Nathan, like the only real ways you could prod edge cases were by changing the arguments to those functions. This is sort of another avenue by which you can change the edge cases that a function might write into. Okay.
So are we going to do one?
We are, yes.
Okay, I think that will help.
Yep.
I have kind of a quick question about Cypress maybe, but hopefully it's quick before we get into the mocking stuff.
Sure.
I mean, it was really fun and everything, but I guess I'm wondering if the main purpose of it is just like documentation or something, because it seems like most of the things we were testing, like you could test more quickly by just seeing if it was working on the page by like clicking the links yourself or whatever. Or I don't know, does it actually save you time when you get into longer projects or something? But
yeah, you hit on it right there. So right now it probably seems really tedious because your projects are so small. But for example, at work, there's a tool I manage that probably is on the order of like 50 to 75,000 lines of code or so, which isn't like, that sounds like a really big number. It's actually not really all that big for a project. But like on that page, there's sort of like a list view where you have like a list of things and you can create new things and you can like click on a thing and it'll show you like a detail page and you can edit all the properties of it and you can click save and we'll go back to the list page and you can like delete them. And on the list page, there's some bulk actions. There's like some check boxes and you can check a thing and you can do like the bulk actions. So there's like a lot of little intricacies and interstices to prod in that interface. And that interface, the one in particular I'm thinking of, has an excellent set of Cypress tests I put together like 18 months ago or so. And because of that,
you reuse them. You don't have to type them out each time. That would save time as well. Yeah, sorry.
yeah, no problem. But like whenever I make a change to that interface, I run those tests and I've lost track of like how that interface works. And that's just like the nature of business software. Like it's no one really fully understands how it works always. Like you maybe get parts of it, but you forget about parts you haven't touched in a while. So like those tests, I run them after I make a change. And if they pass, I basically am just like, okay, my change is good. And I don't have to like remember, oh yeah, what was that weird like bulk selection like edge case that I ran into like 6 months ago? Or like does that delete button, is that supposed to show a confirm box before you delete, or is that just supposed to delete right off the bat? Or like all that sort of stuff. So that's really where tests become really handy.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking about it in terms of maintaining code. I was thinking about it in terms of creating code, but that makes sense. And then you don't have to test everything all over again or rewrite tests every time. Yeah.
Yeah. But what'll often happen if companies or organizations, or even just like for a personal project, you don't really have the bandwidth to make a full-on automated test suite, what often people will do is they'll just put together a big table, which is pretty much like a list of like all the steps you need to do and then what you need to verify. And that actually often starts as like the prerequisite to a test suite. So you'll make that table and then someone manually has to go through and run all those checks. But at least now you can still verify, like, does this thing still work? And then often there's a step which is like, okay, we've got this big table that like is the ground truth list of tests. And now we can convert those, like each of those, into one of those test blocks. So there's kind of a progression this stuff often goes through.
Right. And when you have tests already written, can you just kind of like, if it's doing something similar, you can just pass it different parameters or something and reuse the same test you've already written? Maybe?
Yeah. So what you'll
Yeah, I don't know if I'm saying that
I
right.
often
Different
will do-
arguments to the parameters. I get those words mixed up.
everyone does. There is a technically, I think, arguments of the things you pass into a function and parameters of things in the function definition, but they're used interchangeably. But like, yeah, I mean, often what I'll do is I'll write a test and then I'll take that test after I've proven it works and I'll copy and paste it and then just modify like a couple things. I mean, this is going back to like how you want to design it all. I mean, you could try to do some abstraction there and make it a little bit nicer, but I'm of the opinion that's way too complicated in order to understand a test, and you should repeat a test. Like that's the way I would go about doing it. Okay, cool. Ready to get into mocking, or any other quick questions first?
Nope.
Okay.
Hey Ryan, sorry to interrupt. Quick question. So in my capstone, I deleted the node modules. So I need to install Express, body parser, and other stuff again. Reinstall them basically.
In your backend.
In my backend, yes. So I need
Okay.
to reinstall them.
So you're saying you deleted the node modules directory and you want to basically recreate that node modules directory with all those packages in it.
Not recreate. So if I install, let's say Express, so it will be added to package.json. So I don't need to do anything, just install basically.
Yeah, so when you run npm install save, that's going to take the package, put it in your package.json, like you said. And then if you just run npm install, what npm install on its own will do is it'll go through the package.json, take every package in there and download it and put it into node modules for you. So effectively, like if you just have a package.json and you want to make a node modules based on it, you can just run npm install.
If I need to, let's say, install Express, I need to install Express. Go to Capstone, inside Capstone, install that.
If you need to install Express, well, The answers are there is a little bit more complicated. Maybe if you could share your screen, I could
Yes, sure.
tell you what exactly you need to do. You either need to run npm install or npm install save express, one of those two, depending on what you've done in the past.
So this is my screen, and I have so in package.json I only have Cypress, but for my backend, obviously I need Express, body parser, and also SingMail, something like that. And that's kind of stuff.
Okay, so there's a few ways.
So I
you can-
need these.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. In your backend, do you have another package.json file? Yes, you do. Okay. So what you've done here is a little bit unusual, but it makes sense. So you've got
Oh, yeah, I have them. Yeah.
you've got an outside directory, which has a package.json and a node modules. And then you've got a directory also inside of that at the same level of like as the package.json and node modules that within it itself has its own separate package.json and node modules. So that's totally fine to do. Just what you need to make sure of is when you want to install a package for your backend, you need to go into the backend folder first. So if you're just in the root careers and code directory, or the root directory you have open in VS Code here, Capstone, and you run npm install, it's going to install that into the package.json at the root of the project, not inside the backend. And the way you've got it set up right now, what's in the root of the project, that's where Cypress is, and I guess that's probably all it's going to be there, but maybe you could put other things there too. But like all your backend packages are inside of the backend package.json. So just make sure you're in the right place before you run an npm install.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much.
Yep. Okay. Mocking. Let's go. Kyle, want to share your screen? So again, just got to say that I haven't really done a ton of mocking with Jest. I'm very familiar with it as a concept, and I've done it in lots of other places. So there might be a little bit of back and forth here, but I'm confident we can figure it out.
Cool.
Okay. So first of all, is this a Create React app application?
Not yet, but I was planning on bringing, that's my project this weekend, in addition to the homework, is bringing things into React. So I could definitely add this to React, to the React portion. But for now, I guess for this purpose, let's just do it in vanilla.
Okay. So can you, on the sidebar there, your VS Code sidebar, I'm trying to understand your file structure here a little bit.
Yeah, it's kind of a mess.
No,
So
it's
this is just
fine.
like, I had a folder where I was testing out if I could get Google Maps to work, basically, and that's what everything is in right now. And then
Okay.
I have like a front end and a back end that are very basic right now. And then all my other stuff is in a folder called website, which is where I had like mostly HTML and a tiny bit of JavaScript.
So
But everything's in map testing, basically, that in this thing is all in map testing. So
okay, I see. Can you make your sidebar a little bit wider? I'm just trying to, some of those names
Yeah.
are cut off, and I just want to see what they are. Okay, so Walkumentary front end is where this stuff's eventually going to go.
exactly, yeah.
Okay. What do you think
Well,
about this?
a version of it, yeah.
Yeah. What do you think about this? If you were to take the function we're going to test and just copy it into there temporarily for now, since the stuff's going to go in there eventually, and we can test it with the copy. And then once you've actually migrated it in, you can just change the copy, like change where it points from the copy to the new one.
Okay.
Does that work for you?
Yeah, so just copy these two files. Can I do that in VS Code? I don't really know. I might have to do it in, actually, I might just do it in the Finder.
Okay. Yeah, take the Google Directions test, I think, and copy that into your front end.
Okay.
So in general, the first step whenever you're writing any sort of test is you got to take your functionality and you've got to break it out into a separate function on its own so you can test it in isolation. And that's what we're starting with here.
And don't I need to, I'm going to bring all three because I think I need the HTML one at least to.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good.
To make it display. So let's see. we're gonna go into front end, and should I put it in the source section probably and just
Put
make,
it in source, yeah.
should I put it in the components or just put it in a thing that says like map,
Uh,
map folder in the
sure,
source?
that's fine, yeah. Since you're gonna be integrating this as a secondary step, wherever is fine for now.
Okay. All right, they should be there now, so. Maps, here we go. So I want to get rid of these two so I don't confuse myself what files I'm in. And then, okay. And then this is actually not displaying the right file anymore, so I need to reveal in Finder. Okay, there we go. Oops, wrong thing.
Okay, cool. So then, let's take a look what we got here. So we've got the init map, all the map stuff, directions button. Okay, calculate and display route. So go back down to that function. That's the one that Nathan and I were saying would be maybe a good one to try testing.
Okay.
So does this function depend on anything at a higher scope, or could you take this function and pull it out and just put it like in the root of the file and it would be fine?
As I said, I haven't looked at this for a while.
I think it
I think
doesn't.
yeah. Because I had this thing, I had to figure out how to use add event listener because I was trying to use, I think it was OnClick and it, yeah, I had a scope problem. So that's being called from within the function. So it should be working independently. Yeah.
Okay. So let's do this on line 46 all the way down to the bottom of the function. So take the whole function and copy it or cut it and move it to the top of the page.
Okay.
Just outside of the broader function you've got.
Just to here.
Yep. Just cut that.
Okay.
And
Oh, cut it.
yeah, you can get rid of it because we're going to put it at the top of the page or the top of the file.
46. Right. Okay. Okay.
Cool. Okay. So this function takes two parameters, direction service and directions renderer. It sets some variables, and then it calls a method on direction service called route. And it gives it a parameter, and that direction service.route returns a promise. And then in that promise, you're calling a thing on directions renderer, set directions, with a thing called response. Okay. So now we need to basically, well, this function accepts two parameters, direction service and directions renderer. We need to somehow give it direction service and directions renderer things that would work in this context. What do I mean by that? Well, what are direction service and direction renderer normally? They're probably built-in Google Maps objects, like things that are built into the Google Maps library that
functions.
Yeah, they probably are. I don't know. I'm not all that familiar with them directly, but they have. So thinking about it more abstractly though, direction service is a thing that has a route attribute on it. So if you were to pass something in direction service that had a route attribute that the key was route and the value was a function, and that function returned a promise, and you just pass something that had that format, so something like let me send it in Slack because just speaking in abstractions is not all that
I don't
helpful.
have Slack open yet, so.
So something like route. Something kind of like what I just put in student pasted code. Something that looks like that, where it's not actually the Google Maps object, but it just has sort of the same format to it. It has all the things that exist. So if you were to use it in this function, it would still like have the same contract. It still have the same interface. Now this isn't exactly what we're going to use, but the point I'm trying to make here
I
is
see it too. Yeah.
directions service and directions renderer too, which you could do something very similar where like directions renderer is an object that has set directions and is a maps to a function or something like that. But those can be a lot of different things. Like there's nothing saying it has to be a Google Maps object you're passing in. And if you were to pass in something that had all the same things and all the same locations, the function would still work. Like there's nothing saying it has to be tied to a Google Maps object. And this is a really powerful concept in modern programming languages. And it even has a name called duck typing, which is kind of a stupid name, but why it's called that is like, there's the old expression, like if it quacks like a duck, it's a duck. And it's the idea being like this thing here on line 1, it has the sort of format that this thing direction service needs to have. So therefore the code shouldn't really matter. Like it doesn't depend on whether it's actually like the Google Maps direction service thing, or it's just this sort of abstract version of it we've made.
Right. So you don't actually have to make it display anything to test it then. It's not going to be displaying a map anymore. You're testing the function, I don't know, with whatever other thing simpler thing you
Exactly. Yeah. So what this lets you
I don't
do,
know how to make it do that without using their
yeah, we're
whatever
gonna get
they've
there.
done behind the scenes. Yeah.
This is what mocking's all about. We're gonna get there in a second. But like also what's powerful here too is that string response. Like that's on line 14, what's going to get returned in that promise, that callback in the promise. So you could put whatever the heck you wanted there. Like, and this just gets to the point where like, if you have a request you're making to an API, you could like simulate it returning a 404. We could simulate it returning a 200. So this is kind of how you have the ability to change how the thing works. Does that make sense?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
It's getting there, yeah. I think you'll have to see it.
To be clear, this is like not super straightforward, and if you don't get it, it's fine. I'm more just saying this so there's a record of it somewhere in the video, so you can go back to it in the future if you want to re-look through it. But this thing, direction service, would be more accurately called a direction service mock. So this concept of a mock is like a version of a thing that has the same interface as the real version, only it sort of returns fake data instead of the real version, instead of the real data. And it means you can control now what data you're getting back. So you can test all the error cases, all the edge cases. But it also means that this no longer has a dependency on the Google Maps API. It's dependent on the mock instead, because the mock and the Google Maps API is the same interface. So you can test this in complete isolation without even being on a web page or anything like that, because it's not actually using the real Google Maps API. Okay. So this is a pretty powerful thing, I guess. This comes up all the time. Okay. All right. So I've beat this to death a bit. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask them now. But I think we're going to move on to how you do this all in Jest here now. Next. Yeah. Any questions? Okay, I guess we're moving on. So we need to make a test file for this with Jest, and we want to do it in the exact same sort of way that Nathan talked about doing it. So if you were to make a new file in the same directory called Google Directions test.test.js, I guess it's a little confusing sounding, but I think you get where I'm going.
Test.test.js. Yeah, okay.
And now you add in your describe block and your its and sort of the thing that we talked about this whole week.
Describe, spell it right. And then the first one is what should we be testing?
What's the function called again? Can you go back to the JavaScript file? Calculate.
Oh, this is where right. Okay, we were just going to steal the name.
Yeah, I mean, you can
the,
put whatever you
function
want
there,
here.
right?
but-
And then this one is gonna be the callback. Okay.
And then maybe like a
Oh.
really simple test could be like, it should work. Which is probably a bad name to call a test, but I've been
No,
known to do it in the past.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, save it right now. So this
Okay.
is something we didn't talk about in class, but something I want to bring up. So Jest and most of these JavaScript testing frameworks support this thing where you actually don't have to give it a second parameter for it, and it's sort of like a like test to do, like a test you need to write in the future.
Mhm.
So go back up to your code and hit save. Oh, you already did. Sorry.
Yep. Oh, no, I
now-
didn't hear, no.
Oh,
Did that, but I
yeah, save
saved
the
it
test
here,
file.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now run npm test. Oh, it seemed to have failed. Can you make the terminal a little bit bigger?
Yep.
Oh, app.test.js. Get rid of that file, I think. We're not going to need that.
Oh, I'm trying to remember where that, oh, that's here.
Yeah, that's the
No.
one that Create React App automatically makes for you.
It's okay, yeah. Where's delete?
Hit Command Delete. That'll.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, all right.
Oh, well, okay. Well, I guess it doesn't work. Darn. Well, okay, it should. It works in other frameworks. Never mind. I guess I'm just don't know what I'm talking about. So you have to give it a second parameter. So put a function in there.
Right, okay. I don't remember what exactly we did to like test them without anything in it. Just return and then,
You can just leave
I
the
don't
function
know.
empty, and that's fine.
oh, really? Okay.
It's just a test that does nothing. It's totally fine.
Okay.
Cool. Okay, so our test passes. Great. Should look pretty familiar to what we've talked about the rest of this week.
Mhm.
Okay. Now we need to get the file. No problem, Susan. Have a good day. We're gonna have to get the data from our file, or the function from our file now, into our test file, our main file, into our test file. So go back over to your Google Directions test.js.
Mhm.
Comment out line 1. That was just more of an example. It's not actually what we're gonna do.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Now you're gonna need to export on line 3 to export this function.
Mhm.
Okay. So I'm gonna
And import it here, right?
see, how can we, okay, yeah, I think that's fine. Yeah, so save your test file now, or your main file, sorry, and then go back over to your test file and now import that.
Import, what was it called? The whole, I import the whole file, right?
The function from the file, so calculate and display route.
Right, I'm sorry, just getting, I just get it from here. Google Directions test, that's exactly what I want. Okay.
Cool.
I'm getting confused because I've just been doing stuff in React where the names match, like what you're importing matches the components names. So
Yeah,
it's taken me a minute to think about, yeah.
no problem. So if you, so on line 5, of course, we're gonna want to call calculate and display route. So let's just start there.
Mhm.
So on line 5, put calculate and display route. Now we got to give it some parameters, a direction service and a directions renderer. Let's do that. Yeah, just put direction service and directions renderer in there for now. And we're going to make some variables above that are called those same things.
Okay, I just want to make sure that's what they actually are called, directions, yeah,
Uh,
okay. I was just trying to get the plurals right and everything.
Yeah. Okay, so in between line 4 and 5, now do something like const direction service equals and const directions renderer equals. So we got to make those direction service and directions renderer variables. They aren't defined in this file yet. So we gotta put something
We'll
there.
just leave it blank for now.
Yep, that's fine. And then one more for directions renderer.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, of course, if you were to save this and run this now, the test is going to fail. So do that just so we can see that actually happen.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's going to fail because direction service and directions renderer don't match that format that they're expected to be. You know what I'm saying? Like they're expected to be that have that shape that's like got the like direction service is supposed to have like a route key in it that can be called as a function and returns a promise.
Okay,
And
but
right
we're
now,
not
those are just
connecting to the, oh no, are we connecting to the Google? I'm
no.
just
So
curious, what is this calling now? Because unless we have that API key in there, it doesn't know where to call those,
Well,
right?
step back from that though. The reason why it knows to call the Google Maps API is because you're passing into that function in your code.
Right.
You're passing in
Importing
the
it,
Google
right.
Maps objects. Right now, you're passing in a string for those Google Maps objects.
Right.
So what it's doing is it's trying to find like the route attribute
Okay.
on like a string, and that's not really going to work. And it's like trying to look for other things. Like there's a lot of sort of things that are going on that are a little weird because of that.
Okay.
Also, something else to notice, it looks like there is a constant you're using, google.maps.travelmode.walking.
Yeah.
I didn't notice before.
Where are you seeing that?
On line 10 in the
Oh, it's showing it in the test. Yeah, exactly. So you can tell it if you're driving or walking, or there are a few other options as well, but for my,
yeah.
obviously I wanted to make it walk. So we could leave that out for the purpose of this test if that makes it less complicated.
Either that or the other thing
The
you can
default
do,
is probably driving, I'm assuming.
if you were to take that string google.maps.travelmode.walking and go back over to your web browser where you have the demo running
Mm-hmm.
and open up the dev tools and go to a developer tool or go into the JavaScript console
Mm-hmm.
and then type that out or copy
Just
and
get it
paste
from the, yeah.
yeah. Just the google.maps.travelmode.walking. But
Oh, just this part. Okay.
yeah, let's see what that evaluates to. It's just a string walking. So we could just put the string walking there too and it would work.
Okay.
So either get rid of that line or replace that with the string walking in your, typically this is not such a good idea. Like you want to use the constants in the library, but this is going to be,
Well, this is a copy anyways, because
yeah.
we're not messing up my original code. So let's see, where was that part?
Scroll up a little bit. There we
Oh,
go.
yeah, so I forgot it's, yeah. Oh, I can just, yeah. Okay.
Cool. So if you save that now, yeah, there we go. Now it's going to fail on the string thing. So direction service.route is not a function. Well, yeah, it's not a function. .route doesn't exist on a string.
Right.
So this is where I got to go look at the thing Nathan sent me and make sure I'm doing this right.
Okay.
Okay. So what we need to do is we need to create an object that works in those direction service and direction renderer parameters. So what I'm going to suggest actually to start with, let's just copy what I had put into Slack or what you would put in your other file. Let's put that in this test just so we can see what that would do.
Okay. Put it.
So if you go over to
Oh, as
Google-
direction service, replace, yeah.
Yeah, so just put the thing that I typed out in Slack. Yeah, that thing. And then for directions renderer, we need something kind of similar. So can you go back over to your main source file again? I just want to see what the method was called. Okay, so directions renderer, it's going to call .set directions on it. So what we need, if you go back over to your test file again.
I'm just going to copy this. All right.
And now set directions renderer equal to an object with the key of the thing you just copied.
Well, let me just get that in there first, and then can I just reuse this one? And
Yeah, you can start there. Sure.
yeah. Okay. And then
And instead of route, you want set directions.
what did I do? Okay. What did I just do?
So if you just put curly braces and then paste, you should be able to get there.
Yeah, let me just.
And then if you do colons or yeah, I'll let you go. You
Yeah,
run
the
it.
rest of this, I see what you're getting at now.
Yep.
Yep. Okay.
And then get rid of one of those curly braces at the end.
Oh,
Got two.
yeah. All right, good.
Cool. So your test passes. That's cool. Now, this is kind of an
What is this actually testing though? I'm not-
yeah,
Can
well,
we walk through that again?
we're gonna get there. But
Yeah.
the thing to realize here is like you're doing here is you're passing in objects that fit that sort of format that the function expects, and now it's able to run using your sort of fake versions of it. But your point about like what is this actually testing is a great one. And this is something I probably should have pointed out at the beginning, that this test is not all that valuable right now, because inside of your function, what you're doing is you're calling an external thing, you're getting data from it, and then you're calling another external thing, and you're passing that data to it. Now, where it would be more interesting is if you had some extra logic intermixed around there. So imagine maybe like you took the data you got back from directions service, and you maybe like, I don't know, like did some math on it or like did some logic there. And then you took the data you did the logic with, and then you put that into the directions renderer.set directions method or something like that. So if like that's maybe something to keep in mind here too. Like right now, your function is kind of simple enough where it's not as valuable, but where this kind of can grow is, let's say you want to add more logic into there, and maybe that's not logic you want to extract out of a separate function, or it's not something you can test like on its own. This gives you the ability to like this test will now work with that expanded function. You can modify it to work in that when that function gets bigger. So this is just kind of getting back to the point of like a lot of your capstones right now are simple enough where testing seems really tedious, and like Nathan and I have to be a little bit contrived to like find things for you to test. But like it's really more done as an exercise so you can understand what it would look like in a bigger project. Does that make sense?
Like if I pass some of the markers in there, or I don't know. I'm trying to think what I could do to make it actually test something, like whether or not a marker was showing up or something like that.
Until you add more functionality in your project, I think you're going to have a hard time. Like right now, what you're doing is relatively straightforward. So the code by necessity is relatively straightforward. But like one thing is you were talking about the ability to like when you walk into a certain place, have it automatically play like the walking tour information. Like that's something where like, okay, you've probably got some sort of callback that's going to be fired when you like move. And that's probably going to like start playing an audio thing. So like those are already two places where those are external APIs that would need to be mocked.
Right. Yeah. When I was talking with Max, see if I can remember our conversation, but I think we were basically going to create a box with like latitudes and longitudes, like 2 sets of them, so that if you're within that area, like it just keeps checking what your latitude and longitude is. And then when it's within that area, it will start playing.
Yep.
So
yeah. And that makes sense. And there's actually also a browser API that's like a way you can subscribe to location changes. So you could do it even fancier than just like check over and over. You could say like whenever the user's location changes, check. I mean, either way would work, but
yeah, I'm trying to remember. There was something else he gave me that I was going to check on because I wasn't actually going to use latitude and longitude. There was something else we were going to use, and I have it written down somewhere. But yeah, something with the phone's actual capabilities as opposed to the. Anyway.
Yeah. So there's one more thing I want to talk about with mocking. So we've kind of done like the really high level, like conceptually, this is how you would mock something. But this is probably not at all looking like what Nathan was showing you with mocking. He was probably using some jest stuff. And I want to talk about that because that's kind of important here too. So what we've done here is we've created these sort of simulated versions of these services. But we aren't like, we're just running it. We're not actually verifying that like these services were used, or like this function right now could just be like the contents of calculate and display route could be empty and this test would still pass.
Yeah,
So like
that's
there's
not
not,
really understand. Like, there's not really
Yeah.
any parameters even being passed in. So
so let's
even
one thing
doing
that would really one thing that would be good to do is like validate that like the route thing is being called and like set directions is being called. Because if you could run this and you could say like at the very end, like the directions were set to what I expected, that would be kind of a nice thing to verify.
okay.
So we can do that. And the way we do that is Jest has some really nice built-in stuff to, well, how do I describe this? Jest has a way where you can generate a function that if you call, it will keep track of every single time you call it with all the information associated with each call. So if you were to, for example, I'm going to paste some code here in the student pasted code channel. I just put in there. Can you take that and can you put that inside of your it block below the calculate and display route function that you're calling?
In the it block below the calculate and display. Yes.
Okay. This is probably looking a bit more like what Nathan was talking about in the mocking section. What this does, jest.fn, this is a cool built-in functionality to Jest, where this jest.fn is a function that will return a function and store that in the mock callback. And when you call mock callback, what it's going to do behind the scenes is actually run that callback that's passed to the jest.fn function. So if you were to call mock callback, so you hit enter and you do like mock callback parenthesis and then give it a number.
Okay.
And then wrap that in a console.log just so you can see what it returns.
Okay.
And save that and take a look at the Jest console down below. You should see a number somewhere. Yeah, 52.
Okay.
So why does it say 52? Well, let's walk through it. So what's going on here is on line 8 and 9. Mock callback, it's generating this sort of this callback function, and then we're calling it with a parameter of 10. When mock callback is called, what this jest.fn fancy thing is going to do is it generates a function that behind the scenes calls that callback you give jest.fn. So you can sort of think of like anything you pass into the callback being parameters in the callback you gave to jest.fn. And when you, so like in this case, X would be 10. And it's of course adding 42 plus 10 and getting 52. And the return value of that function is what gets returned out of the mock callback thing. So great. The big question you're probably thinking is like, well, what's the deal with the jest.fn thing? Why don't you just assign a function there? Like, why do you need to wrap it in that jest.fn thing? Great question. And the reason why is if you were to, on below line 9, add another line and do console.log mock callback dot mock, sorry, singular, dot calls. Now save it and let it run.
Okay.
What this is doing, this jest.fn thing adds the special attribute mock onto the function. And this keeps track of every single time you call it. So you can see there, it's an array, and that array contains
like 2 arrays.
the array contains an array of all the parameters you pass to each time you call it. So to maybe make this more clear, if you were to duplicate line 9, so take line
not change it, duplicate it. Okay.
Yep, copy it and put the same version of it below. and then change the 10 to some other number
Yeah, all right.
and save and run, you'll see now you've got 10 and 20.
Right, and it's still coming out to 62, but
Well, so it's logging out
Second
twice
one.
actually.
wait. Oh, it does it twice. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
And also to just make it crystal clear, add a second parameter to the one on line 10, like add 30 there. And you can see why that second array.
Oh, like
second
with a
level-
comma?
Yep, so like
Two
comma
parameters
space
in the
30.
same- Yeah, okay.
And save that, and you can see why that second level of array is important. So the first
Okay,
level of array
yeah.
is each call you make. The second level is all the parameters you pass to that function. So what's cool here is you can start to do things like assert that the function was called with certain parameters, or do things like assert the function was called twice. You can start to use your imagination here. Yeah,
What
go
we
ahead.
were doing, assert was what we were doing like way back in the first day before we learned how to use jest. So does
Sorry,
it have an assert as well, or?
Sorry, I'm using the wrong terminology. You can use expect on this. You could do something like expect
Okay,
mock
okay.
callback.mock.calls.length to be 2. The term asserting, expect is also another form of an assertion. An assertion is more of just a general concept of like verifying in a test that something is true. So
Okay.
console.assert is a version of an assertion. Expect that function, that's also an assertion. It's more of just a broader category.
Broader term, okay.
Yeah. So cool. Okay. So we've now been able to see that like there's a way you can have insight into when a function is called, and you can verify like what it was called with. There's even a way you can check like its return value. There's all these sort of, this .mock has a lot of different things on there, like a lot of different sub properties you can access. The only one we're going to talk about today is calls, but there's a couple other ones on there that are helpful too. So you might be able to see where we're going here. If you were to scroll up above to where we defined our direction service,
Mhm.
and you were to wrap that params thing in a jest.fn,
Okay.
sorry, from the open ring parenthesis of params to the closing parenthesis of the promise.resolve. So the whole
whole-
value.
Okay. And then
Yep.
that was
Jest.fn.
just.fn. Okay.
So if you save that, test should still pass. And you can also comment on all the stuff about jest.fn below the example we're doing. We're done with that. It's just to prove out that, show you what it does.
Okay.
So if you say that again, all the logs will go away.
Okay.
So your thing still passes,
Mhm.
but you now have the ability to see when route was called. So
I
in
don't see
your
the array here. Oh, we didn't put in the mock.calls yet. Okay.
Yeah. So go back over to your test file or the regular file again.
The
With the
original?
function we're testing.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Scroll up to the top.
Oh, that's right. We put it way up here. Yeah.
So what I want to do is I want to write a test that asserts that direction service.route was called and that you pass the travel mode of walking when you call it.
Okay.
So this is what we're doing here. We're not asserting the return value of the function. We're asserting that one of our mocks was called with the right input data. So it's
Okay.
sort of a different type of like thing we're checking, but it's still like what we're still doing is asserting a value. It's just we're not checking the return value. We're not asserting the return value. Okay. So checking that the route, when route is called, the object passed to it, the key travel mode is walking. Okay. Just
Okay.
want to reiterate that.
Keep that, save that to put into the. Did I already do that? I can't remember if I. No, we changed it here. So it's going to be calling this function. I don't need to put it in there. Yeah.
Yep. So go back
Okay.
over to your test.js file. Okay. Now go down below where we called our yep, right there. Hit enter. Now do something like expect parenthesis.
That's these, right? I'm trying to remember the syntax.
Yep.
Yeah.
Direction service
service, okay.
dot route dot mock
Dot,
dot calls
mhm.
dot, or wait, bracket 0.
Bracket?
Yep.
Okay,
So just to reiterate what's being done here, direction service dot route,
mhm,
that's the function, or the
right,
function that just.fn returns. So the mock's available on it. So dot mock will get us access to all those mock attributes.
right.
And then
And
dot
the
call,
first call, because it's the 0 position of the array.
exactly.
Yeah,
And then do dot,
after the
wait,
array.
no, 0, 0. You need to put 2 there because you need the first call, and then you need the first parameter of when you called mock. Bracket 0, bracket 0, bracket.
Okay, so, whoops, no shift.
Oh,
Okay.
sorry. Open bracket 0, close bracket. Open bracket 0, close bracket. So you need to get the,
Like
yeah,
that,
and then get rid of the outside pair of brackets.
comma.
No, not like that.
Oh,
Um,
because we're getting rid of the outside brackets.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly. You
Got
got
it.
it. And then
Okay.
you can get rid of the space in between the two.
Okay,
brackets.
so why are we doing that again? Oh, and I forgot the dot here too, because that's what, there was a dot there, right?
No, you don't need a dot there.
No.
I'm realizing you might actually have not been exposed to the syntax before. Let
No.
me, okay.
Really, just saving that.
Let me.
Well, no, I know about putting, I don't know why I wanted to put a dot there, but I know about like putting the number of an array, like
Yeah, but
square brackets, like we've done that when we had like an array of objects or something like that, and you want to
Yeah.
get a certain one or whatever. But
Okay.
the second 0 here with the space, I don't know what's going on with that.
Get rid of the space in between. I think the space is making it maybe more confusing than it should be. So what this is doing, remember, we've got 2 dimensions of arrays. We've got the outside dimension, which is each call. Then we've got the inside dimension, which is each parameter of each call. So what this is doing, this is getting the first call. So that's what calls bracket 0 bracket does. And then we want to get inside of that first call, that expression from
Because you're
direction service-
accessing the array within the array. I get it. Okay.
Yeah. So the expression from the opening parenthesis after expect to the bracket 0 bracket after calls, that thing evaluates to the array that contains all the arguments, and you want to get the first argument. So, okay, you got the first argument. So what that's going to be equal to, go back over to your main file with the function we're testing. That's going to be equal to this object we're passing into route.
Okay. Well, it's going to be equal to this, the first one, right?
No, it's going to be
Oh, no,
equal-
wait, this is the whole, right. Okay. The whole
Yeah.
object. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. This is a brain mender, isn't it?
Right, no, it is because that's, yeah, this is an object. These are not, we're dealing with arrays. So yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Right.
now
If I go back up, it probably is a little clearer. Yeah. Direction service. So this is the first, no, this is an object too, because it's got a key.
yeah, and that's, well, let's finish typing out this line and run the assertion, and then I'm going to walk through it step by step because I think
Okay,
it's going to
yeah.
be helpful to see that.
Yeah.
Okay, so what you want to do to finish up that assertion, go back over your test file,
Mhm.
is after the second 0, do dot, what was the key? Travel mode? What,
Yeah.
I think that's what it was.
Mode. And I think it was walking with all capitals.
Yep, but not like that. So get rid of the walking part.
Okay. Oh, because
And
we're gonna
now- And we do no, get rid of the colon space part too. And then after the at the very end of the line,
Mhm.
do dot I think it's to
You want me to go
equal.
back to the other file to check what
Yeah.
it looked like?
Yep, okay, that's right. Yeah, go back to your test file.
Mhm.
So after at the very end of the line, not after travel mode, after the end parenthesis.
Okay, so am I taking away the dot now?
Yep, get rid of the dot.
Okay.
And at the very end of the line, go dot to equal.
Oh, okay. I remember this part from expect
And-
it to equal. Yeah,
And
okay.
you want that to equal walking.
Walking, right, okay. Yes, this makes sense now, I'm remembering.
Now save it, and your test should still pass.
Yes.
Now, to prove this works, change walking to like driving, and this
Okay.
should fail.
Yep.
Pretty cool.
Oh,
So, okay, switch it back to walking. Let's walk through this line one more time. We're going to write it step by step. And I'm going to print out each thing at each level so you can see exactly what the data structure looks like.
yeah, let me see if I can get the whole test in there plus as much of the function as I can. We don't need the console logs. Okay, cool.
Okay, so start out, hit enter and do a console.log and log out directions service.
Oh, I still got the capitals on there.
Yeah, I'm hoping that anyone watching, if you didn't understand when I went through that expect bit the first time, going through it individually, this is going to be a bit more helpful.
All right.
Okay, so hit save. Let's see what the test. Okay. So this is kind of long and unwieldy, but you can see there's an object.
Mhm.
And
Do
there's
you
a
want it
key.
bigger?
Yep. Yeah. If you can make that bigger, that'd be great. Yeah. So you can see there's an outside object. It's got a key of route. And then the value is this like function mock constructor thing. Don't worry about that for now. But you can see that there is an object with a key of route. And that's what you'd expect. That's the direction service is equal to an object. It's got a key of route and maps to this jest.fm thing. Okay. So we want to check to see what's happening on that route. So change your console.log to have a .route after it. And I'm going pretty fine grain here, pretty slowly, just to make it very clear. So sorry if this is a little tedious, but.
No, it's good.
Okay, so now that probably should make sense. We're accessing the key route. So we get the thing that route maps to. Cool, this should be pretty straightforward. Okay, so this mock constructor thing, this is like the thing that jest.fn generates. And you can see it's got a bunch of attributes on it. It's got like mock, that's the thing we were talking about. It says mock : getter setter. That's the thing that we're going to be accessing. But there's other things on there too, like mock clear, mock reset, mock restore. These are all extra, those extra bits of mock functionality I was talking about. These are all those things.
Where's
So
the
if we
getter
wanted
set?
to.
Oh,
go
here we
ahead.
go. Okay, I'm seeing it now. Yeah. All
Yeah.
right.
So you could like mock clear is a thing you could access on here, and that's a function you could call it. And what that actually does isn't all that important right now. But these are all extra bits of functionality that the jest.fn thing added to your function for you.
Okay. So these are properties of the just.fn, not properties of the Google Maps stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. There's no Google Maps code running right now at all.
Okay. It's hard to remind myself that. Okay.
Yeah. It's weird. Like this whole idea of mocking is it's abstract. Okay. So we want to access the mock. And the reason why I know I want to access that is because I just looked it up online. And I can post some links afterwards in the student pasted code channel somewhere. I can post some documentation so you can learn about it on your own. But just take my word for it for now. We want to look into mock. And that's where our attributes we're going to access, like the calls thing is going to be. So
I'm a little confused about mock because weren't we just doing that mock.calls? But that doesn't have anything, that just says getter and setter now.
Yeah. Do.mock, I think what you're going to see it returns is going to make more sense as to why it's .calls, I think.
Mock instead of route or after route?
After route.
Okay.
So this is like an object and we're going into the mock key and we're diving one level deeper.
One level further in. Okay.
Okay.
Oh,
so
now the calls are there.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's getter and setter mean?
This is a bit advanced. The quick summary is there's a way that you can make variables that you don't actually know their value until you access them. And that's what getter setter means. It's sort of a more advanced language feature that I don't think you've covered at all. In effect though, like the important takeaway though there is there's a mock key. It maps to something. So you know that that's a thing you can access and you could do .mock and it would return a value. and you
Right.
can print out that value and see what it is.
So the things that were coming up next to mock were not the things that you could access below them. It was just a description of what mock is or something like that.
Those are things, so mock clear is another one of them. If you were to replace mock there with mock
Let me
clear,
just go back so I can see them again.
yeah,
So this is not, like, I was expecting this to be calls and whatever the other choices were, you know what I mean?
yeah, it should, so that's what it actually evaluates to. This is more of a, this is more of an implementation detail of how the jest.fn thing works.
Okay.
In practice, there's a value there, but JavaScript isn't going to actually tell you what that value is until you look at it directly, which is a weird concept, I realize, but like, without getting really into the weeds, I don't know if I want to go much deeper.
So
than that.
basically at this point, don't look at what's after the colon, just look at the names and try to access them and see what's available under each of those names. Is that what you?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to.
That's the best way to think about it right now. And we
Yeah.
happen to know there's a calls one. Oh no, what did we do? We did mock to access that, right?
Yeah, but before you do that, just to be really clear, try
Okay.
making that like go back to what it was with route before.
Oh, whoops. And I'm just hitting enter. I have to hit save. Yeah.
So all these other things in here, other things we can access too. So for example, let's say like instead of doing .mock, try .mock clear.
Okay.
Just I want to prove that like these other things aren't magic. These are other functionalities exposed on the mock. That's a function. You can call that. What that's actually going to do, just if
So I
anyone,
should put parentheses after it?
you could, yeah. I don't know what it's going to return, but you could.
Well, I don't know. You just said it was a function. So if we
Yeah,
want
give it a go. Give it a go. Let's see what happens. Okay, so they're chainable. Interesting. The return value here, I guess, isn't really all that important. But what this does here, this mock clear, this is a function that will actually reset all those call values. So like, let's say you called the function and you wanted to like reset that back to an empty array again, so you could like call it again. What you can call mock clear and it'll do that. This is kind of a common functionality in a lot of mock libraries. They have a function like this.
Okay.
Anyway, that's not all that important. I just wanted to explain that those extra things in there weren't magic. They're just extra functions you can call in the mock. But replace that mock clear again with mock again, because that's where we really need to access.
Okay.
Okay. So this is starting to look maybe more like what you'd expect. So we've got calls. That's the thing we want to access. These other things are
Instances, route, and then the function.
So
Okay.
I'm not really sure what that is, but
Yeah, it's just
it
interesting.
seems very similar to the first parameter passed. So
Yeah, that's, I saw that route and I was like, that looks like what we already wrote. So, yeah.
yeah,
We have a function. Oh, we do have a function. It's just not doing much. Yeah.
yeah, I'm not sure, but I bet if you read the documentation, it would tell you all about it.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, let's go back to calls. Okay.
Okay, so do calls. And this is going to look very, like at this point, it's going to look very familiar to what we had before. So you're going to have,
Okay.
got
It's
two levels
actually
of array.
pulling the stuff from the other file.
Exactly. So you've got your outer array, which has one element in it. So there was one call made. And then the inner array has one element in it. So there was one parameter passed for the first time that function was called.
Okay.
So now you could do bracket 0 bracket.
Oh, on here. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Just to get down to, yeah.
Yep. So now you just got to traverse your way down to the thing you want to find and save. No, just do it with the first one.
Oh, okay.
Just so that, like, I want to be really
Demonstrate.
fine grained.
Yeah. Okay.
So now you can see that there's the outer array there is gone. You just got one level, as you'd expect.
Right.
You've got the first element from there. So now do the second bracket 0 bracket. Okay.
Right now we've got the one object. Yep.
Yep. Now
And-
access travel mode.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Save.
and then that save, right? And that's
There
just
we go.
getting us down to walking.
So
All right.
that's what's actually going on there. That's sort of the path that I took to get there.
Okay, that's what we were doing. I want to see more of the function again now. Where's my?
If you
Sorry, I
take a
just
look at the-
recently switched to this different, because I do each instructor's color theme, and I'm not used to, it doesn't show where the line is anymore. But okay,
If you take a
so that's
look,
what we're doing here.
Yeah, you'll see the thing inside of that expect is the same thing we put inside of that console.log.
Right, exactly. I should go up a
So
little.
that other than like, there's nothing fancy about that. Like you could put whatever sort of expression you wanted there. It just so happens that expression you put in there happens to be to look at the value of a time a mock was called or mock function was called.
Mhm.
So you could go as crazy with mocks as you wanted to. You could, I mean, let's do one more real quick just to really drive it home. So you're also calling that on the other value, that method. I'm being vague because I forget what it's called. Can you go back to your
Oh.
main?
Renderer?
Yeah, directions render dot set directions. So let's say we want to assert that was called too. It was called with the right value.
Okay.
So what do you think the first step to do that would be? Like how would
Yes.
you follow the same process for that one?
So we're gonna do expect directions renderer dot set directions. Well, I don't know, you want me to do the whole thing? Dot mock
You can
dot
type it out if
calls,
you want.
and then probably see what the structure of the calls is before you start putting the rest of it in, right?
Yeah, type it out. Let's give it a try.
Okay, so I can put this probably under the same. There we go.
So keep in mind, you're going to want to check all your assertions after you've called your function. So it has to be after line 8.
Oh,
Did you see what I'm saying?
yeah, I was just trying to organize it so it was next to the, yeah.
Okay.
All
What
right,
might help
so
is
let's see, direction services above, so let's keep them in the same order. And oh, no, wait, that wouldn't be the same order. I need to put it. I guess I'll put it here and then we'll do another console log.
you can get rid of that console.log on line 9. It's not really needed for the test if you want to clean up your code.
Okay. Yeah, that way it's easier to see them right next to each other. So we want expect, and it's going to be directions render this time. And dot, what was the thing again? Dot set directions. And then dot mock dot calls. And then should we try that and see what it, or should I do a console log to see what I need to?
Do a console.log just to make sure you're looking at the right thing. That's probably a good place to start if you're
Right, because I haven't done the 2 equal yet. Oops. Okay. Oops. Now we gotta make this big again. So it's failing, but it should show.
get rid of that expect line for now, or comment it out, or yeah. We're gonna see why it's failing in a second, but I want to do it with the console.log version. Okay. Cannot
Why
read
don't we
property.
both- Wait a minute, should I get rid of both expect lines?
Nope, you're good. You're good.
Yeah, because it's still failing.
It's failing. So look what line it's failing on. It's failing on line 10. So that means everything above line 10 is working fine. So our previous assertion is good to go.
Okay.
Now, cannot read property calls of undefined. So when you see that error, what do you think? Like, where does your brain go?
Well, let's see. There's problem with directions render. Maybe I've got too many parentheses. I think that's it.
So I would say when you see cannot read property something of undefined, what that usually
Directions render is undefined.
it usually means something. You're trying to act as a property on something that's undefined.
Mhm.
So, and usually what it means is the thing before the thing it says in the error message is the thing that's undefined. So
Okay, on mock.
mock is undefined. So to verify that, get rid of the dot calls.
Okay,
And just log out just
I
mock.
type it correctly. I spelled it right. Let's try that.
Undefined, there we go. So why is it undefined? Well, by default, things you access that don't exist on values are undefined. So it seems like just mock doesn't exist on set directions.
Why? Because that's set by Jest, not by Google Directions or Google
Yep,
Maps. I
yep,
mean.
that's set by Jest, but how do we tell Jest to add that dot mock property on a function?
Oh, I didn't put the jest.fn part. in the-
Exactly. Yeah.
Mhm. Okay, I forgot we did that. So this whole thing needs to be wrapped in parentheses. Oh, this is good that it messed up like this.
All part of the learning experience.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Now we're starting to look a little bit better here, except for it doesn't look like it called it. Interesting.
Well, because I didn't put dot calls, we took that off of there.
Yeah, but the calls array is empty. If you look at the
Oh, I see what you're saying.
and I would think it would have called it. Go back over to your code.
Here, make it so I can see it better. Okay.
Or your original function. Sorry, not your test.
Oh,
Okay. Call that, then response. Yeah, it really should be working. Do this. Try putting a console.log between line 11 and 12 and log out just some sort of string, just so we can see if it gets there.
that's string.
Cool. Okay,
right.
so it gets there. But set directions isn't being called. Okay, try this. Try logging out directions renderer here. So after like set string, or yeah, you can do that too.
Just replace it.
Yep, that works. Okay. Oh. Yeah, I know what's going on. I fell into a trap I laid out at the beginning of this this session. Remember how I talked about how you need to make sure your function completes before you run any assertions on it? So this is an asynchronous function.
Directions render dot. Yeah, it runs. Oh, I see.
So what's going on here?
Okay.
Direction service dot route. So okay, you call your function. Direction service dot route is called.
Right.
And then it goes into the promise, and then that's an asynchronous operation. So it's kind of going on in the background and it's waiting to have access to run its asynchronous code. And then the function returns, your assertions run, and then the asynchronous logic runs.
Right, because you're running directions render on, sorry, you're running, yeah, the render on the service. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is an issue you'll run into where you want to run assertions, but you want to run assertions once the function has totally completed, not after it's run synchronously, but before the asynchronous stuff is run. So you need to switch up the order in which these are running. And luckily, that's pretty easy. The way you want to do this, so first of all, as a rule of thumb, whenever you have promises in a function, you always want to make sure you're returning the promise from the function. So the reason why you want to do that is, if you don't return the promise from the function, you've kind of lost a handle to that promise, and you have no way in your code to tell when it completes.
Okay.
In general, promises that kind of have an undetermined, unbounded time they're going to complete, that aren't really going to, you aren't really keeping track of anymore, it's usually an anti-pattern or like a bad sign. In general, returning things that you have like promises that use promises is a good idea. And I'm being a little vague there because I'm having a hard time coming up with a good way of explaining that. But if you, before line 7 were to stick a return there.
What did you say? I'm sorry.
Before line 7, or at the start of line 7, stick a return before direction service.
Oh.
So you're returning your promise. And then you go back over to your test.
Okay, wait, save this. Okay.
Yep. And go back over your test. And then scroll up. So actually, I guess we get to make the call. Do you want to do this with async await, or do you want to use then? What are you more comfortable with?
We've been using async await a lot more recently.
Okay.
But,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm kind of glad I was doing this with the promises, because what you were talking about, you could see it better with the promises. I don't know.
Let's do it with the promises then.
Okay.
So a cool feature of Jest, and sorry I'm jumping around a bit here, but I wasn't expecting I was going to cover this, so I didn't nicely tailor it into my whole plan.
No,
But,
that's okay. I'm feeling a little rusty on the actual promise syntax since we've been
Okay.
using single wait. So yeah, it's okay. We'll
Yeah.
figure it out.
So a cool feature of Jest is you
Mhm.
can actually return a promise from a test block, a function and the callback that's passed to it. You can return a promise and it'll effectively wait. It'll wait for the promise to complete before it completes the test.
Okay.
Why that's cool is it means you can effectively run asynchronous code in one of these it blocks.
Hmm.
So the way you would use this in practice is something like this. But on line 7 of your test file,
Mhm.
stick a return at the very beginning of calculate and display route. At the very end of line 7, replace the semicolon with a dot then,
Okay.
and then put some parentheses and have your callback typically like you would with a dot then.
Okay. And then we need to put this inside of it, right?
Yep, you got to put a function inside of your dot then first.
Oh, right. Okay. And then do you put response here?
In this case, I don't think it really matters. So yeah, you could do that.
Okay. Oh, and it wants to capitalize it for some reason. Hmm. Okay.
Okay. Very nice. So then take everything below and put it in the dot then. Yeah, you had that part right.
Mhm.
Stick your console.log in there too. Okay.
Bunch of extra space. here.
Now, I bet if you save this and it runs, your calls array is going to have some data in it. And I'll explain why that's the case if this works
Okay.
one more time. But give it a try. Let's see if this works first. Scroll down. Yeah, nice. That worked. Great. Okay.
Okay.
So you see how calls there has a string response in it. That's what I was saying. Yeah, that worked too.
Okay. Yeah.
So let me
Oh,
walk
I'm glad I
through.
put that in there because that showed where it was going. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me walk through one more time what's happening just for anyone who's following on video or later on.
Yeah,
can you
I'm
make
gonna
your
need to
terminal-
rewatch this. Yeah.
Yeah. I realize this is really dense. I understand that.
It's fascinating
Um,
though.
Yeah, this is how often testing goes in the real world. So I wanted to expose you folks to it. Can you make your terminal a little bit
I
smaller?
also
Your
feel
editor?
bad because you're kind of doing my homework for me. I don't know what I'm gonna turn in now.
I mean, you're writing the secondary assertion here, so that's part of it at least. Yeah, I guess I am.
Yeah,
kind of doing
I probably will just do something like the simple thing that's changing the main image with the thumbnails or something on my other. Yeah.
Okay. Can you scroll up a little bit more just so you can see the whole it block? Yeah, nice. And one last thing, sorry, I'm going to be nitpicky. Can you put a new line in between line 6 and 7 just to make it a little bit easier to read?
Oh, sure.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So we've got, let's walk through this whole it block one more time. We've got these two mocks we set up, direction service and directions renderer.
Mhm.
And these have, there's an object and there's a key in their route and it maps to a function that's wrapped in jest.fn, so it has all the special mock stuff on it. And that function takes some parameters and returns a promise resolve with a string response. And that promise resolve is just an immediately resolving promise. Now, the important thing to realize is that route is going to be it's going to, when you call it, return the string prompt or return the string response. And that's going to come up here in a second again. So set directions now is very similar to the first line. It's another sort of these mock objects. It's equal to an object with a key of set directions, and it's mapped to a function that's wrapped in jest.fn, so it has a special mock stuff on it. And also here you're returning from this a promise that immediately resolves to the string response. Worth noting though that this actually is kind of superfluous, and you really don't have to have the promise that resolve response here. You could put something else here. The return value of this function is not really all that important.
But we had response down here. Is that coming from there or it's coming from this code down here, right? Where I put response there?
It's not coming from there. It's actually coming from the response on line 5.
It is. Okay. I was thinking it was.
Not line 6, line
We're
5.
not even using that parameter. So yeah. Okay.
Line 5. You were clicked on line 6. I just want to make sure you get that.
Okay.
Not
Yeah,
line
because
5,
that's the
line 5.
direction service one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, to make it even more clear, replace the promise.resolve a bit on line 6 with just null or something, or like an empty function, or you can get rid of the whole
Why don't I call
promise.resolve.
it render response and
Okay, yeah,
service response?
cool, that works. Yeah, so if you save and scroll back down your terminal, you'll see it's the service response one.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so you've got your 2 mock objects, and those just, again, running back from top to bottom again, those mock objects mirror the format of the Google Maps API. And because they mirror that format, you can call all these sort of functions and attributes and access these values that are on the Google Maps API, but you're accessing them on these different objects instead that just happen to have the exact same layout. And because they have the exact same layout, it means that you can touch all those same places and it's going to work. And this idea of swapping out the version of the thing you're using for a fake one, this sort of what's on line 5 and 6, those fake mock versions, it's called mocking. So anyway, those mock versions of those services, direction service and directions renderer, you're then passing those into your calculate and display route function. You're passing in those mock direction services and mock directions renderer things. And calculate and display route returns a promise. So then you're accessing the dot then on the promise. You could also here just as easily do await calculate and display route. That would work here fine too. But we decided to do it with the dot then way. So then inside of the dot then, we've now got a callback instead of our dot then that fires once the asynchronous logic inside of calculate and display route is complete. And once that's complete, we're going to assert a few things. So on line 9, we're going to look at that route attribute on direction service that's equal to the just.fn thing from line 5. And we're going to access the mock attribute, which just.fn puts in there for us. We're going to find the first call. And we're going to get the first value or the first argument from that call. And then we're going to look at the travel mode key on that first argument of that call, which if you go back to your original code, on line 10 there, you can see should be walking. So, and we asserted that's true, and go back to your test again, and it's true, and that's what the assertion's about, so hopefully it should be true. And then we're right now on line 10 writing the assertion for the directions renderer, which is very similar. Go back to your original file. And we're going to be asserting that line 13 basically works, that set direction is called with this value response. Okay, I ran through that mostly for the video. I think you mostly understood that, and Shaw and Latonia.
It was helpful to hear it again. It was helpful to hear it again. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Okay. So let's write that. Let's write that
I'm not
secondary.
finished here yet though, because we got to go
Yep.
down to.
So you're close. I think you can finish up this part on your own. Get the value that you want to assert. What do you want? Well, actually, that's a better thing to ask first. What do you want to assert? What do you want to verify?
That it's being called on service response, I guess, the fake.
Yep. So you're getting
that calls, right?
Yep.
And then you still want the 2 sets of brackets with zeros on them because it's the first item in the array and the first, well, they're the only items in both arrays, but it's position 0.
Yep, you got it.
So that gets us down to set direction.
Scroll down. You've got an extra console.log in there still.
Oh.
Keep going. There we go.
Oh, okay.
The extra console.log is in Google Directions test. So if you want to remove that to make it more clear.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, line 12 there.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go. Okay.
Okay, so we got down to service response. So that's it.
So now take your console.log and turn that into an assertion with expect.
Right. So then up here, no, we haven't written it yet. Wait a minute. Where am I? I don't know why I have that inside the
Why you have what inside?
I'm just confused by it. Okay. Oh, we did write it. We just wrote it for, this is for the other one. All right. So
Yeah,
I
that's
got
for the other
same
one.
thing again.
you-
Expect. Well, I could just copy and paste this, most of this in here. This part. And then to equal, and we want it to equal, what did we call it? Service response.
Cool. See if that
Can
assertion.
I leave the console log in there?
You can get rid of it. Yeah, it's not important to have it around anymore. Oh, you got
I went a little too far.
cool. There we go. So the that's kind of how it normally goes. Something kind of like this, where you write some mocks, you pass those mocks into a function. That function uses those mocks, and then after the function's complete, you then verify that it got the mocks were called in the right way. So if
It's
you
good
say
to make
that,
it fail on purpose. Yep. Cool.
so there's one last point I want to make, and then I'll open up for any questions people have. So this service response string, you're noticing that like that's a thing that's in your mock that like is above on line 5, and you're also using it on line 10. So like
Right.
that's something that's not actually like that's not based on like a format of something that's in the main file, like in the function. That's just kind of like a sort of sentinel value you've made. That's like, this is the thing that should be returned by this mock, and I'm going to check to make sure that this value was passed through. But like that doesn't actually match the format that the direction service.route function returns or resolves. Like,
Right.
that probably is some sort of like complicated Google Maps object. In
Mhm.
this case, it doesn't really matter because it's sort of, you can treat it very opaquely. Like you're dealing with sort of the value, and you're not ever like poking and prodding that value. But realize that like if you made your function more complicated, you might have to put a value on line 5 where service responses, it's like an object with like some keys and values in there. You would have to mirror
Yeah.
the value, the thing that Google Maps function resolves. So
So you can access different parts of it. Yeah.
yeah, and just kind of more by luck or because your function's simple enough right now where this works. But
Could make it an object. Response is the key, and I don't know. Service, you know, what is it called? Direction service as the value of the key response or something like that.
yeah, you could totally do that.
Not really, there's no real reason to do that, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. There's actually, I lied. There's one other thing I want to talk about.
Okay.
So there's what we didn't do here, and something you'll probably find you'll have to do at some point, is you'll do something like you'll have a library that you import that you're using. Like let's say you import Axios, and you're making a request with Axios, and you realize in this test you want to mock Axios. Like you want to basically like replace Axios with a function, and you want to be able to assert that like Axios was called with certain values, and you want to make like Axios in your test example return like a 404 or something like that.
I
That's
think
a little
he
more
was doing
complicated.
mocks with Axios in the class on Tuesday. I think that's what he was doing.
Yeah, so Nathan was using a well, let me look at his code. He sent me it. I want to say this correctly. Yeah, okay. So there's a couple different ways you can handle this. The first and probably the easiest way is if you take all your Axios code and you move it into a function, kind of like you were doing with all the other Jest stuff. Like you take your code you take some code, you abstract it into a function. Now you can then mock that function. So like, let's say you had an Axios call that was like getting a list of users.
Did you want to share your screen with Nathan's code on it? Would that be better than looking at mine right now?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, okay, so what Nathan did here is an example of what I'm talking about. So what you could do,
Can you blow that up a little bit?
oh yeah, sorry. Let me. Is this good?
Yes, that's much better. Thank you.
Okay. So what you could do, and what this code probably could look like, well, how am I going to do this? Let me do original and new. Okay. How do you do this? Like, something kind of like this. So this is how you might write this function to start with, where you say, okay, well, I need to validate a password. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call Axios, which is Nathan's fancy password backend he wrote, which I'm now going to have to ask him what he did there. But you do something kind of like this. You could switch this around for a .then, whatever you want to do. But effectively, call Axios, access the data, and just do whatever sort of logic you want on it. This should be like roughly straightforward, I would imagine. Okay. Now, the problem is that with this, though, is if you want to mock this, you need some sort of way you can like change this axios.post here. But you don't really have a way you can get your hands into that, because you can call validate password and you can give it whatever password you want, but it's not going, like, there's no way you can change Axios from just this call. So there needs to be some sort of way you can like get at it. And this is the easiest way to do this is something like what Nathan did up here. So let me transition up to what he had on GitHub, which is what he did is he took that Axios code and he moved it out into a function. This was password used recently function. And then because that was moved out into a function, now we could access that function inside of his validate password function and do everything you wanted to. And now this becomes a thing you can mock. So you can mock was password used recently and make this was like always returns true or always returns false or something, and not have to mock Axios directly. You get to mock it at like one level of indirection upwards. But the keen observers among you might note this still doesn't solve the problem. Like, how do you access was password used recently? And there's a couple ways, you could do that, like that you could figure out how to get access to this and change it. The easiest way, and the way that I would probably recommend you start with, because it's the one that is the most like what we did in Kyle's example, and the one that is least confusing, is use this concept called dependency injection. This is a really fancy word, or a really fancy term, but really what it means is taking all the functionality that your function uses and passing it in as parameters into your function itself. So an example of dependency injection could be something like this. I could say, was password used recently? I could say was password used recently real, and then I'll make a new version of was password used recently, and I'll call this was password used recently mock. And this one, I'm just going to return. Gosh, Nathan uses 4 spaces in his JavaScript. What a sin. Okay, I guess I'll just keep going with that. Promise.resolve true, something like that. Now what I can do is inside of here, I can go was password used recently as a parameter to validate password. So what this is letting me do now is when I call validate password, I give it the password I want to validate, but then I also give it the version of was password used recently that I wanted to use. So I could say, was password used recently? I could say, I want to use the real version. And this is like what you do in your actual code. Then when you want to call the test, when your test, you do something like use the mock version. So it kind of gives you the ability, it gives you those like ways you can mess with the internals of like which version of that is being used. So that's one way you can do that. And this is the easiest way and the way that doesn't require like any fancy libraries. There's another way though. And this way, this second way is a little bit cleaner. So you'll notice this way, like you have to remember to give it this like, was password used recently real all the time you call it. That's kind of tedious. Like no one really wants to deal with that. Like, of course it's the real version. Like you're not gonna, when having to like worry about this every single time you call it is like annoying. So the other way you can do it, and the way Nathan was teaching, which I think is a lot more confusing. And I can kind of understand why you had a lot of problems with mocks, because this is a lot of more of a complicated technique. Is
Can you hold on a minute and go back to what you were just doing? How
Yeah.
does it know to expect that second parameter? I'm just looking.
because it's right here.
Oh, okay, I see it. Never mind. All right, thank you.
Yep. Also, Latoni, I see you're still on. I don't know if you're actually following along with this. This makes sense to you too. Sorry, I haven't really been checking in with you. Well, okay, maybe she's not on anymore. Whatever. I'm gonna keep going.
Ryan,
So-
I'm sorry, my internet froze up.
Oh, no problem. No problem. If you're not following along or you just are listening, and that's fine. But if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Okay, I will. No, this is very helpful. And I'm glad Kyle is such a brainiac that you can take all these different tangents. So thanks.
No problem. You're really just humoring me here. Like I'm like multiple hours over time at this point, but that's kind
I
of
know,
how I
I'm
roll.
actually getting pretty hungry, so I need to stop for lunch soon, but finish what you're just gonna explain.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the last thing I want to cover, unless you have any questions. But so was password used recently real? Was password used recently mock? This is this concept of dependency injection. And some like languages and platforms, this is kind of the way they handle this sort of problem. In particular, I think C# and like the Microsoft stuff, they really like doing it this way. However, the other way, which unfortunately I can't actually give you a name for it because different platforms call it different things. In Python, it's called patching. You might have heard me briefly mention to Nathan earlier. Is this like mock.patch? And that's what I was referring to. In JavaScript, or more specifically in Jest, they call it they refer to it as spying.
Yeah, we had that thing called .spy on.
Yeah. So every sort of tool calls it something different. And this is when I'm going to go back over here to Nathan's code. So what Nathan did, bring this over here too. That and this. So spy on, the way these things normally work, well, I don't want to start there. Well, I'm going to be very blunt. These things are magic. Like the person who writes each of these for a language has to be an expert of the language, and they're using like really weird language features to like make this thing work. Like every single time I've seen this in any sort of language, like you look at the code for how it works, and it is like, whoa, above your head always. But what's going on here, like functionally, is this is a piece of functionality that will take this first argument and find a property called the second argument on it. So something like password checker dot was password used recently. Like that's kind of what it's doing internally. I guess more accurately this, but I think you get what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And what it allows you to do is effectively like, it will make one of those jest.fn things at this place, like in that other file's context. Like kind of magic behind the scenes. Like you're not setting it directly. You're just saying like, hey, Jess, kind of do that for me somehow using some magic JavaScript thing behind the scenes. And then I'm not a lot familiar with Jess's particular version of it, but like, I guess there's this mock implementation thing you can call, which like will let you, this is like the Jess.fn function, you put it here.
Okay.
So what this is doing is effectively in this, I guess, well, let's see. Password checker.
I don't think he showed that just.fn. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he didn't show that. So yeah, it's a little clearer to see how it's parallel. Yeah.
Yeah, I think without seeing that, like this stuff is like really, really confusing.
I felt like I was following, but yeah, it was just a lot of the syntax was confusing, and yeah, I don't know. I'll probably go back and watch that video at some point again, and probably this one too. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, what the? I'll be honest, I don't even understand how this test actually works right now as it's written. I don't think it would actually run. What this should be basically doing is after this line is run, effectively, this function kind of is just turned into, is replaced with this function here.
Mm-hmm.
Only it's also wrapped in that just.fn thing, so you have access to those mock properties and all that. So what that means is like when this is called, then it's going to call this instead of actually calling this, that was password used recently. And when it calls this behind the scenes, this always returns false. Or let me make this a little easier to read here. It'll always return false. So because it always returns false, these are going to be false. And then the spy.mock restore thing, what this is doing is basically being like, okay, undo this, switch it back to be the real one again. And if you don't do that, what's going to happen is future tests you run are going to be using the mocked one still from previous tests. And that's like, that gets really weird and really confusing. So in general, tests should be independent.
Mm-hmm.
And like the order in tests you should run them should be independent. Like things like that you're doing to modify like globals like this, they should be undone before like the test completes. So like this is sort of cleaning up after itself so that the test's independent and works all on its own. So
Yeah,
hopefully that kind of made sense. My general recommendation would be if you want to do, I would say avoid this whole thing. Like there are certain circumstances where really it's the cleanest way to do it. And when you're working for a company or you're writing a more complicated piece of software, like it's going to become clear quickly that like this is the faster and more efficient way to do it. But it's magic enough where, well, it's magic enough for one. And second of all, I would be surprised if instructors could really help you debug this sort of thing. Like these sorts of frameworks are all subtly different, and you really have to become an expert in them to figure out how to use them. And the amount of time I spend in every language when I'm trying to do something like this, like figuring out all the little interstices and like edge cases around these sorts of functions, I just don't think it's worth your time at this point to actually use one of these. I would say this is probably a lot more straightforward, a lot easier to understand, and I would say stick with this for now. So to say like that means use dependency injection, inject any sort of functions that do asynchronous actions or that do like actions you want to mock, and then you can do that. And that's to bring it back home again. That's what we were doing in Kyle's capstone. We were effectively, you were implementing dependency injection kind of already, kind of by happenstance. So we didn't have to like talk about it explicitly, but you're passing in those values. So we have access and we can modify them. And that's what I would recommend. Like pass in the values you want to mock into your function and just pass in a mock version in jest. Okay.
Okay.
That's about all I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
Really
I'm not
went
sure
off
how much
the
of
deep
that I
end.
absorbed because I'm kind of getting toward the point where I'm like at saturation plus I'm hungry. So
Yep.
but I'm glad there's a video that I can go back and watch.
Definitely. And totally willing to, if anybody has any questions, like I can answer them, or also if anyone wants to see like some examples of tests in like code that is in a capstone, I'd totally be willing to like one-on-one with folks, show you some code that is like not simple and not contrived, or even walk you through some of the like that application I was talking about at work that I have that it's like got all the like the list view and like the detail view and the delete button and all the bulk actions. I can show you those tests running if that'd be helpful. Just I'd rather do that
It'd be
one-on-one.
interesting. I don't know if it'd be helpful, but it'd be interesting.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to do that, let me know and set up some time. But
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks.
that's it.
Thank you so much for sticking around and explaining all that and helping me with tests on my capstone and stuff. I think that's going to give me a basis to start with when I want to test other things on my capstone, like the autoplay on the narration when it gets to the right location and stuff like that. So it's going to be really helpful. Thank you.
Definitely. Now I'm really hoping that it's continuing to record. I think it stopped
It's just
streaming. to
recording.
YouTube. Yeah, it stopped streaming to YouTube, I think, when Nathan left, but I think it's still recording to Zoom. So
Maybe
I
you
might
can
have
like
to-
put part 2 up or something like that.
yeah, or maybe like delete what's up there already and like replace it. I'll talk to Jesse and Max and get them to figure it out for me. But just heads up, it's probably not going to be live up there right now.
And if not, then that means you have to do this again, Ryan.
I'd be game.
Thanks.
Okay, cool.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Yep.
Have a good weekend, guys. Bye.
You too. Bye.